Good evening everyone, welcome to round 3 of the Australian Endurance E-Championship live to you from Spa this evening. We're actually from LeMan this evening, my apologies, the title hasn't updated there. Live from LeMan this evening, my co-host in crime will be joining us, Scotty Rankin, who's just tidying a couple of loose ends up before he jumps into the stream. And we're here tonight for a 2-hour race at the famous LeMan track, and it's going to be a big race. We've had a lot of changes to the iRacing setup over the last 24 hours with a huge release coming out from iRacing, and that has made changes to pretty much every car on track tonight in terms of the way they handle, the tyre model for the vehicles, and some of them also having weight changes and power changes as well. So it's going to be an interesting race when we get down to it, because the drivers have literally had the half-an-hour practice session prior to us going live tonight, and whatever time they manage to get during the day today will get themselves up to speed with how this car, these cars, so it's going to be challenging. See how they manage it. Other exciting things as well, a couple of new cars coming to iRacing. So we do have a brand new Corvette C8 join the stable, as well as that may well make an appearance in our season next season. So that one is a GTE car. Took for a quick spin around Spa this evening, and I can tell you what, it is a fantastic car. It handles extremely well, and very excited to see who decides to jump across to that during our season next year. So lots of changes coming. This track is going to prove a handful for these guys. It's actually not a bad one for the mixed category here, because there's plenty of opportunity for passing down the top straight. The track that is on the right hand side of the screen, as you're looking at it, is that long straight with a couple of chicanes in the middle of it. We've got a couple of, basically the bottom section of the track, as you're looking at it, is the more technical section of the track. But if you get those chicanes wrong on the long side straight, if you get your braking markers wrong, or are not too used to the draft, it can certainly lead you to come off track there and pop the penalty that you're not going down the straight there. So plenty to watch tonight. I can tell you as well that we've got together the team for the season so far. We'll go through those as well once Scotty jumps into the booth. And plenty to talk about. The Motorsport world is closed. We've seen in the background there a couple going off. I think that was potentially Murray Westberg. I'm not sure, I can actually see the number on that car that moved on the screen in the background there. The Motorsport world's a flurry at the moment. We've got news tonight that Sebastian Vettel has joined onto the racing team of Formula 1, so he's going to cross into the Aston Martin in 2021. So as well today, Repco have extended their partnership with the Supercar Series beyond Bathurst, now the series taking over in Australia. So plenty happening in the real world of motorsport, and that is certainly in the sim world as well. So tonight we've got 2 hours of racing. The race distance, these cars will be challenged again with that low practice time for the cars. The drivers there not having enough time probably to work out if there's any real effect on them as well. So guys, you're just saying you can't.
Yeah, Stuart, on Discord, you're actually coming through an alternative mic. So Stuart's there. Evening, guys. Stuart actually said that I'm trying to deal with some issues at the moment. So, look, the update to iRacing does cause some issues for some of us. Unfortunately, I'm one of those affected. Stuart's in the process of fixing his microphone. We'll grab it there in a moment when he's available. But welcome to the Australian Endurance E-Championships live from Le Mans. We've moved into our qualifying session already, and the drivers are out on the circuit to get the start of what serves as one of the longest laps in world motorsport. That's right, it's the Le Mans Circuit de la Salle. also known as the 24-hour circuit. So that's what we're in the mix of at the moment. Stuart, are you over there for me?
I'm hoping that I'm back.
Are you? Oh mate, you sound like much more high definition than you did before. So I've got faith.
It's doesn't matter how much testing we do these things just after updates from the iRacing community, it always manages to trip us up there. So apologies for that. Thanks very much for letting us know that we're having some sound issues there. All from our side, it all looked good, but obviously clearly not sounding that great. So thanks Nathaniel, and thanks Maddie as well for letting us know so we could get that fixed. Well, that's a shame because I said probably some of the most outrageous, bold statement calls that I've ever made in my short commentary career, and I'm not sure that I can repeat them all. So we'll have to start afresh. But I was just running through some of the changes that have occurred in the real motorsport world. I did touch on briefly the changes in iRacing too, but now that you're in, Scotty, with your issues resolved, we will get those discussions underway as well. Thanks for joining the stream as well, Rebecca. Jumping in on board with the NSR Motorsport guys. They're right at the top of the team championship, competing for that. We'll jump into the points there as well. We've only got about 22 minutes to go in qualifying here, so we're going to have to be a little bit quick in some of the conversation, but we do have 2 hours of endurance racing from Le Mans to come. And excitingly enough, in the real world, Le Mans is actually coming to us next weekend. So the real Le Mans 24-hour is on next weekend for us. I think starts at around about 10 o'clock local time in the evening on Saturday night. And then it will conclude, obviously, Sunday evening, the 24-hour maths there. Relatively straightforward. So, Scotty, are you back on board fully? Your microphone issues all fixed? Yep, beautiful. Yep.
So I was just filing through and making sure I'm looking at the same benefits of our timing software. Like, look, it has gremlins from time to time, but what it does allow us to do is it'll actually show me which car Stuart's sitting in the broadcast booth in Melbourne in lockdown. I'm in a different state, but I can tell you exactly which car he's looking at. That is the benefits of the timing software that we go to, and it actually really assists the flow and the feel of our commentary sometimes. I was actually just taking a quick look through the grid. A really, really good friend of mine has actually joined in the lobby by the name of Jordan Malcolm. Now, Jordan and I ended up winning 3 hours of Imola a couple weeks ago, so I know that he's quick, and I know that he's consistent. I also know that he did turn laps here a couple weeks ago when the Circuit de la Sarthe was here. I think it was the VRS GT class, so actually it might have been IMSA. Anyway, one of the classes he was here, so he's definitely got laps and time. I don't know if he's got the number of laps and number of time, but the car livery that he's actually using is the racing team that I normally run with, which is Blue Shell Academy. I'm interested just to see as a marking point where he stacks up, compared to your Chris Purnells, your TK. I believe we've got.
So at the moment, in that class, Jordan's actually fastest. We haven't seen some of the guys come out, and he's from the early practice that I saw, he's around the mark. That sort of high 350 is where we're going to be looking at for qualifying pace for the GT3. So he's on the money at the moment. It's just slightly quicker than Sebastian Murray-Westberg, who currently is sitting second in our championship. So I just had a little chuckle there while you were bringing that out, and it was because Zenon Santos has dropped into the chat and already getting revved up about Foot Fetish Phil, and now apparently Rub Me Right Ron. So that story there with Ron Polito and Phil Polito from Polito Brothers Motorsport continues to grow legs.
Oh Lord, what do I miss? Like in some of the driver conversations,
yeah,
Stuart? I mean, you're the admin of this series, so you see a hell of a lot more than I do. But
I do, but they keep all of these things until we get into the race, so we only find out about them afterwards. So yeah, look, there's some interesting characters in our grid, which is fantastic, and another full grid again tonight as well. So. Good to see everyone getting back this series. I was probably questioning a little bit when we set it up going to fortnightly races, but I think it's allowed everyone to sort of, get a little bit more time into doing other things too, which prevents it from getting stale in terms of in the cars. And we've also obviously lined it up pretty well with the series that runs every 2 weeks with iRacing, with the longer 6-8 hour format races on Saturday evening. So trying to keep on touch with that. Just gonna.
Yeah, look, I think, I mean, you touched on it right at the end of the season last time around as well. I think it's a good change. Just like there's points that you come across, but there's also the fact that it allows the drivers to treat it a little bit more casually, and for a series whereby when you do sit down to race, you're racing for a more extended time. Sometimes you actually do need that to ensure that you're wanting to come back every week. So.
And I touched on before, I've said a number of our drivers are actually in the pits still. I'm actually wrong, they're not in the pits, that's just the laps they've completed haven't counted. As in they've had off tracks.
Right, yeah, and I mean that's, we always touch on it, right, don't we?
Yep.
It's the fact that, you know, you got to get a banker in and whatnot. But the other thing about Le Mans is that, sorry, I said an 8-minute lap, I was thinking of the Nürburgring.
Yeah, that's right.
Le Mans is a 4-minute lap. So there's a lot of chance, especially for some of the drivers towards the more rookie end of the scale. Even your more seasoned professionals, like Chris Purnell, like the Nash, you know, those sorts of guys, they're still pushing very, very hard. And when you're right there at the limit, it's so easy to just get one off track, and then you got to reset your lap again, and that sucks. Purnell's just gone fastest in the GT3 class.
Yeah, that does surprise me a little bit, not because of the driver, but the Audi. I mentioned it before, probably copying the severest of the treatment out of all of the updates that happen on iRacing overnight. We had a huge update come through, including new cars, new tracks, track reviews, new tyre models, and a lot of the GTE cars, in fact all of the GTE cars, and I'm pretty sure a majority of the GT3 cars, all copped new aerodynamic packages, tyre updates, and unfortunately out of all of it, the Audi seemed to cop a weight penalty of 2.5 kilos increase, which is actually a regression because they had given the Audi 2.5 kilos benefit in the last update that we did. So they've taken that away. Obviously they think that the Audi somehow is too competitive with that, and obviously we do a lot of GT3 broadcasting. The BMW is the car for mine as far as parity goes. That's the one that's probably slightly out of sync with all the rest of the cars, and I was really surprised to see that the Audi copped a penalty at all. I don't think that it's the fastest car necessarily in the GT3 field, so we'll see what comes of that.
It's interesting, especially when we see a lot of our more GT3 heavy styled classes, whereby the BMW is the most popular of the cars. It could be an engine note thing. Like, for me, the BMW and the Audi are much less. They're very, very similar. It's just sort of different styles of car, and whether or not some drivers just prefer the shorter nose, because the Audi's not quite as heavy on the front end. And the other thing is the damage model could be better on the Audi as well, which could lead a lot of drivers in that direction. I'm actually just looking. I kind of really want to have a look at the balance of power updates directly so I can read through them, because I haven't had a chance to review them myself yet.
Well, while you do that, I will talk as well about, I would say what's going to be an entrant into our series next season, which is the new Corvette. I managed to get in time to just turn a couple of laps in it before we jumped in tonight, and it's a very impressive car. It's really well balanced. Turn in on it's fantastic, and this is on a baseline setting, so this is effectively, if we bought the car from the factory, this is how they deliver it to us so that we could, you know, attune the car for the track that we're going to. And even with incorrect gearing, I was testing it at Spa. It's a very impressive car. It's going to be really competitive. It reminds me a lot of the car that's on screen now, the M8 BMW, in terms of how stable it is and how easy it is to get in and drive. So I haven't made any decisions yet, but certainly looking at the category as it sits now, we'll introduce that in place of the now a little bit dated Ford GT, and I guarantee there's going to be a lot of drivers jump on board with that as they get in and get time to test that car. It's going to be really, really competitive, which reflects the real world. That car has basically cleaned up whatever racing there has been this year in the GTE class, and be very surprised if it's not extremely competitive again at LeMan next weekend. So some really exciting changes in the sim world, and only going to stand to help improve this category as we get into next year. So excited to see that. And the upgrades they've made in terms of aero packages will also help these cars. The reports that I'm getting back early from the drivers are that they're a little bit easier to drive and more stable, which is a big complaint that a lot of people had. It's very easy to over-rotate these cars, so by that turn in and the back of the car would easily flick around behind you. So some of those changes bringing advantage to the drivers, and they'll be getting the benefit of that over the next 2 hours, albeit probably not as comfortably as they would if they had more time to test it.
Okay, so I did look into the balance of power changes because I'm looking for specific numbers. The Audi's minimum weight got increased by 2.5 kilos. So I thought 15 kilos, man, that's excessive. But it was only 2.5.
That's what I said.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, because they gave it 2.5 kilos benefit last time, and they've just taken it back away.
Gotcha. Okay, there you go. So this is the first time I've actually looked at patch notes quite in depth for iRacing. Interestingly, the Ferrari had its minimum weight reduced by 2.5 kilograms for an already balanced. This is the GT3 Ferrari, not the GTE Ferrari, because they're the same, just slightly different. Minimum weight was reduced by 2.5 kilograms. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if we start to see. Obviously, they're locked-in cars for this series.
Yes, they are. Yeah. There's no.
Yeah,
we already had requests to change today, and we sort of said no, unfortunately not.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see that the Ferrari, especially, just sort of surge in its performance. The McLaren received no changes. The BMW received no changes. Aerodynamic downforce of the Mercedes increased slightly, so this is going to be now whether or not we are going to see just an increase in downforce and no drag penalties applied. I'm not sure. I would assume so, but tonight's going to be a really, really good testing for that, because if you see all of a sudden the Mercedes just start to fall really away in a straight line, that'll be a very indicative of the Mercedes' new package in aerodynamics. Consequently, though, it will be one of the more stable cars through not only through the Porsche curves, and then I believe it's also the Chevrolet, the Corvette curves, as well as the Ford chicane Dunlop curve. Yeah. So I didn't see any Ford changes, which is what I'm looking.
No, they've not. I think that they're going to try and rejig that car again. I mean, and this is the difficulty when they start making changes individually to cars. There's always a car that cops a loss. We were talking only earlier in the week about the GT, the Ford, albeit in the GT3 category. And that car really needs some help because it's not that competitive. It's not that easy to drive. Not that the car should be easy to drive, but it doesn't drive like a car that a manufacturer would keep pursuing. It's very difficult to tune. It's very difficult to extract pace out of. So, I was expecting to see some changes there as well to try and bring the group together, but it just hasn't happened.
One of the cars I'm actually looking at, obviously because it's one of the more popular cars in the field, is actually the Porsche 911 RSR. So it's received an updated tyre model. The aerodynamics on it have been completely reworked, which you were mentioning when I believe your microphone wasn't working.
Yep. You could hear me, no one else could.
Yeah, so I could hear you. You actually had something really interesting to say about that. It's now actually got an aerodynamic balance calculator, which will be included in the garage. The drivers will have had a bit of the day to work with that, but with a lot of these drivers obviously being at work and things, they wouldn't have had much of an opportunity to play around with how that's working. What I'm really interested by is the adjustable brake master cylinder sizes. That's really going to give the drivers the opportunity to really adjust and fine-tune that braking style and braking feel. They've also had packer heights and bump rubbers adjusted to control further bottoming out. And then obviously baseline setups have been tweaked on those as well. So interesting.
Yeah, it was a big change.
Interesting to note with the Bathurst 1000 coming up as well. Brake parameters for both the supercars Ford Mustang and the ZB Commodore have been adjusted. That's the only tweaks to those cars because those cars are basically identical. Like you can install a Holden setup on the Ford and it works perfectly fine. So that's the extent that those cars. You won't see any balance changes related to those cars. You may see some tweaks to the way that they handle, which is what they look like they've done here. So there's a whole bunch of new content that's released. It's an awesome time to be getting into iRacing if you're thinking about it. Tire rubber. Ooh. Rubber properties have been changed for a lot of the oval cars. That's intriguing.
It is, but not in our race tonight. So
No.
I'll leave you to have a look at that after this one. We've got 8 minutes to go, or 7 minutes to go, I should say, in this session. And at the moment, we've got Braden Nash from Brock Schaefer from Matty Bowler. So we've got an NSR top 3 lockout as we sit at the moment in the GTE category. And they're relatively close lap times right at the front there with a 46.62, so 3 minutes 46.62, and a 46.88 for Schaefer behind Nash. And then we're back into the 48s with Bowler, followed by Vincent Muscat. Tomo's 5th at the moment in his BMW, the fastest of the BMWs at the moment. And then Jesse Butler sitting in 6th. And it is Sebastian Murray Westberg, the fastest of our GT3 cars, followed by Chris Purnell and Pete Edwards. A new entrant into the series as well. He is currently sitting in 3rd. So just waiting to see.
What?
We've got.
I'm gonna look at that Pete Edwards car tonight and say Jordan Malcolm. I can see it already. The liveries are so similar.
We've got no, they're not too close.
Well, it's the orange flarings.
I was going to say one's the bow repairs car. So we've got 3 minutes left now. So. If anyone, sorry, my apologies, we've got 6 minutes left, 3 minute lap, so really if the guys are going to get out and do a lap, they need to get out there now, or they're going to miss the end of the session. So we'll keep an eye out for purple sectors. Brock Schaefer now doing a purple sector 5, so this lap should be quick. He's done a couple of personal best sectors in this lap so far. About 3/4 of the way through the lap, he's just heading down the... Where is he there on the map? Oh yeah, just heading down the straight. He's just getting around. He's probably going to do one more lap, I would say, to try and improve on that overall time. The track map is moving, but we just need to remember that the track here is awfully long. So because of that, it looks like the dots aren't going anywhere, but they actually are.
Yeah, look, one of the cost-benefit analysis. Oh man, it is slow, isn't it? I only just toggled mine on, so...
Yeah, I thought it had stopped working. Like, we've had that issue in the past. I'm looking at it going, oh man, it's frozen again. And then I looked at it and said, no, they are actually moving. It's not stopped at all. So that's good. At least the map's working. But yeah, we've just had Braden Nash go faster again. He's just done a 46.32. So Schaefer and Bowler here looking to work together, no doubt, using their advantage of being in the team to see if they can get that Bowler car a little bit closer to the front in terms of time.
Well, I was actually just looking at Bowler's car, and there's actually a tiny little ding on the front of it at the moment. The front splitter's sort of creased slightly. So I'm not sure how that's been caused, but that'll definitely impact lap pace for him. But he hasn't really got much of an option in terms of time to get in, time to get back out, and time to get on with the job. So interesting to see whether that affects things.
Sebastian Murray Westberg out on track at the moment as well. He is currently fastest in the GT3 category and looking to improve on that lap time at the moment. He's got a couple of green sectors here as he approaches the end of the lap, coming up to the last couple of chicanes here. I think he's
heading into the Porsche curves now.
Say, there's Porsche curves, and then he's just got the GT chicane to go before he completes the lap. So sit on board with him here, see if he can improve that time. He is only just slightly in front of Chris Purnell at this stage, and Pete Edwards is in the pit, so he has put the cue in the rack for this
Malcolm
session.
is literally finishing his lap just up ahead of SMW as well, so I don't think he's going to be able to go any quicker, so he'll be starting from P4.
get through.
SMW, this is his opportunity if he's going to stick it in there and be quick. He's got to do it now, but nope, he'll maintain the pole position. He looks like he was off on all sectors pretty much on that last lap. So
we've got Purnell out on track still as well. He's got a couple of green sectors in this lap. So we'll keep an eye on how he goes. At the front, I think it's pretty much all settled with Nash, Schaefer, Bowler, Muscat, followed by Thompson and Jesse Butler, but we'll keep an eye on that one to see if that changes. Those drivers just starting their last laps, if they are going to do one. And we'll stick on board with Purnell here. He's challenging for pole position from Sebastian Murray-Westberg, who has continued on for another lap around. I don't think he'll get that done. Or, no, he probably won't get that done before the end. Definitely won't get that done before the end of the session. So
close. But the good news is this sets us up quite well. Just going to take a quick scroll. Incident point counts are extremely low right across the field. Even though it is qualifying, just seeing the drivers pushing to their maximum and having low incident points counts, that's very, very good for, in terms of what we're going to see in, from a race tonight. With the exception of the RSR Porsches, the fields are actually reasonably spaced in terms of their times. You've got sort of multiple groups of drivers clumping, and then there's a gap.
Out. Purnell just jumps into pole position for the GT3 category there with that last lap. Just
I tell you what,
Timothy Febin just jumped up the field as well. He's done 4 laps now. That's his first lap that counts, and he's jumped straight up into 4th place, so knocking Vincent Muscat back to 5th.
Tell you what, when you're on a 4-minute lap and it comes down to 0.24 of a second, that's the difference between pole and 2nd place. That's the difference between in our GT3 class this evening. Purnell 356.65, Sebastian Murray-Westberg 356.89. That's it. Across nearly a 4-minute lap. That is all that separates them.
TK there improving on his last lap time, but not improving his position, so he will start out of P11. The Polito brothers are in the pits. Wade Reynolds in the pits. We've got Mark Samuel still out on his lap in the RMS-sponsored Porsche. He joins the field tonight, so welcome to him. And what's he going to do there? He's actually just started a lap, so that lap he will not get completed. And then we've got Frank Hodak. He is still out on a flying lap, so he should get that one through.
Maynard's on a flyer as well. He's about to come through the Ford chicane.
And the box fit sponsored entry there. How does he go? He's done it. It's his quickest lap of the evening. 4:07.59. So not improving his position there, but still getting the quickest lap of the evening. And Braden O'Loughlin still on his lap as well as one of the last of our GT cars. Sebastian Murray-Westberg is still out there. He will get this lap in, so he does have a chance to catch it at the death. But at this stage, he is slightly slower than Purnell. Slightly quicker through Sector 5, so it's going to be close. Whether or not he can get it done there, no off-track on that part of the track. You can use the full width of the track as you get through there. He's just coming up, and he's aborted the lap. I was going to say he's just coming up to the Ford chicane. So Mark Samuel's still on his lap. That lap there, I don't think he's going to get done within the remaining minute of the session. So that will probably complete our grid, I think, for this evening.
I'm still showing, we've actually got 4 minutes or so left for the drivers to complete their current lap. Yeah, it does have the extended.
Because it's a longer lap, yeah, of course. Okay, so he will get that through then. So we'll jump on board with, we're on board with TK here. He's just ahead of Mark Samuel. And we've also got Mark Gibson out on track as well. They're all within, you can sort of see them all down the straight there.
Yeah, that's it. Gibson's the last car that's actually completing his lap at the moment, so...
Braden O'Loughlin's out there. Chris Purnell's still doing a lap as well. He's 3/4 way around the track, but he is safely in P1 for the start of this race at the head of the GT3 3 field. So,
barring a miracle.
well, Murray Westberg's in the pits, and yeah, we've got to wait and see if Braden O'Loughlin can get up there. So, a couple of new liveries tonight as well. The drivers have been busy in the couple of weeks that we've been away from the Endurance Series.
A few drivers actually, the Audis seems to be struggling this evening, because Purnell's the only one that's been able to put any sort of pace out of that car. So whether or not it's with a 4-minute lap, making yourself conscious and quick at all available braking markers could be an issue, and Purnell the only one with the ability to pull that off in the Audi this evening.
Yeah, we do, Hutto. We do have an option. Hutto's just asked if we've got an option to display the vertical leaderboard. We do have an option to do that. We just tend to find that we get better coverage of all the cars. Because there's so many cars running in the field, we generally tend to see a better result out of running the ticker across the top of the screen. So if there's anyone you want us to highlight particularly, I can't remember because you were with us during our coverage a couple of weeks ago. If there's anyone you really want us to make sure we keep an eye on, let us know. We'll make sure we get plenty of coverage across the evening for you. We're working on a new overall setup for our streaming that we'll bring out at hopefully in a couple of races' time, which will include our ability to actually bring that up, but it's not properly set up for the way we stream at the moment. So I think that's everyone.
That's it.
All the way through. So we'll just wait for this to tick over, and that will mean we can bring the grid to you. Just touching on that as well, Hutto, there's some updates coming from our provider too that that will make that picture look a lot better as well, in terms of just some changes to actually make it a lot closer to Formula One. So when you ask about the Formula One setup, yeah, there's definitely some good stuff coming there as well.
I thought for half a second you're actually talking about your internet connection. To get on to how did the conversation with Telstra go?
Yeah, you know what? Last night when we streamed Anne's car, it was in 720, no problems at all. So whatever it is that they've done has fixed it, and tonight, you know, we're up over 4K again, so it should be all good for this evening. We'll see how it goes when there's more data coming through. But yeah, we found out it was actually an upload restriction from Telstra at my home streaming setup.
You're kidding.
Rather than when we were at work at the studio doing it. So at least we got to the bottom of it.
Look, sometimes it's those. I mean, look, I've had housemates actually limit my connection, just to annoy me. So at least it wasn't that.
Thanks,
I'm
Darren.
so glad.
Welcome to the call, mate. We're certainly looking forward to it, particularly with the batch of NSR cars running and taking out the top 3 positions.
Look, it's a phenomenal performance from them again, but can they get Timothy Fabian up another second? Can we see a real battle on for that lead? Look, I mean, we've got 2 hours. We've got 2 hours, and we've got nearly 4-minute laps tonight. So,
all right, well,
the benefits of that, lap traffic isn't anywhere near as much of an issue, which I kind of like, because normally it's about traffic management at a regular circuit when you're doing an endurance race. 95% of the race turns into this real traffic management as well as pace and gap management. So it's not about necessarily pushing to your utmost for as long as you possibly can. It's more about managing the overall aspects of your stint and where you want to apply your risk factors too. So when you come to one of these more iconic locations like Nürburgring, like LeMan, you know, it's and another one actually being Spa, whereby traffic becomes less of an issue. It's really, really good because all of a sudden you just get to see the drivers focus on what's in front of them.
Yeah. Well, we better get through the grid before we get too far along, as the cars are out on the track here. So, as I mentioned just before, we've got Nash, Schaefer and Bowler in an NSR top 3 lockout, followed by Timothy Fabian. Jason Muscat in 5th with Tomo, Jeff W. Thomas taking out 6th. Mark Gibson followed by Jesse Butler, Martin Lofthouse and Todd Gibson rounding out the top 10. We've got Henry Thomas Kirker taking out 11th position. Ron Polito in 12th And we do grid up here in our GTE and GT3 field split as we move back further through the grid here to Phil Polito right behind him there. We've got Wade Reynolds, Mark Samuel, Frank Hodak, Timothy Russell rounding out our top 17 cars there. Then we've got Chris Purnell in 19th and we've got Sebastian Murray-Westberg in 20th as the pole and second place grid for our GT3 field, followed by Pete Edwards, Jordan Malcolm, both entering the series and doing so with a strong qualifying performance. Michael Spithill in 23rd. We've got Reese Grant in 24th place as we head through to the rear of the field, followed by Luke Trahair, Braden O'Loughlin, David Johnson, Reese Ashmore, and we've got Joshua Maynard bringing up the back of the field there. So they'll head around here. The way this happens is we have the GTEs go on green, and the GT3s, you'll notice there's a gap developing there. They hold for 5 seconds and then they'll take off and get on with the race when the leaders cross the start finish line. We do it deliberately so there is a gap, because there is a gap in pace between these two cars. It also ensures, hopefully, that we get through the start of the race cleanly. So we are about to go green in a couple of minutes. Scotty, what are you looking for tonight very quickly?
Look, we do have those 2 new entries. Obviously, I'm quite attached to one of them. But it's an option for the drivers to display their skill right now around what is an extended and very, very difficult lap. Portions of the lap can be boring, but the benefit is that the draft really allows overtaking to be prominent, strategies to come to the forefront, and with 4 minutes a lap, if you get your fuel strategy wrong, you are going to suffer. So expect the drivers to be looking at their fuel readouts like a hawk watching its prey.
And doesn't that look amazing with those 3 NSR boys right at the front of the field there? Just a small little, would you call it a sea of green, a patch of green, making its way around the course here, and still one of my favourite liveries, that car. I don't know what it is. I'm not normally a fan of green, but that colour, it works really well on the car, so it's looking fantastic there. As we just right on board with the blimp here, wanting to get a good capture on the field. We're just waiting for the safety car to pull off. We'll expect that to happen in a matter of moments. There he goes there. We're about to get underway. Scotty,
I tell you what, the Porsche patch of perfection makes a bolt for it, but I think Nash is... sorry, not Nash.
Oh, there's been...
I think that's Bowler that's binned it in the first corner. This is exactly why you separate the fields, so that drivers can have their accidents and get away with them before the GT3 field makes their way down and through. So it is going to be 2 out of the 3 NSR Porsches leading us away for the first time under the Dunlop Bridge.
Not sure what happened there. It looked like maybe a wheel got dropped off in the dirt and we had a spin. So that's not a great start there as we jump on board with the GT3 field as they get underway. And as you mentioned there, fortunately, that's got clear. Wow, there's 2, 3 cars there really getting loose under brakes, and the teammates collide. That will not be ideal. That won't be the start that those boys will be looking for in the Redback race team. Pete Edwards there, unfortunately, coming a cropper on turn 1. So a little bit of action to start the race off there. Not definitely what any of those drivers would have been looking for in the start of this race. As we'll leave Chris Purnell for the moment, jump back on board at the front of the field here, where it is Nash and Schaefer who are trying to break away from the pack. Timothy Fevin about half a second back down the road behind them. And then we've got Mark Gibson, Tomo in 5th with Jesse Butler in 6th. Gibson 7th. You can see him at the back there with Lofthouse just behind him. TK coming through. Ron Polito, Mark Samuels towards the back there as well. So looks like after that little early scuffle there, you can see the NSR boys just trying to make a break for it and work together to do so.
I tell you what, Braden O'Loughlin looks like he's already towed it back to pit lane, so caught up in things off the start. That's a horrific start and horrific entry for him to the series. Sebastian Murray-Westberg has had an issue as well, so you're going to see Malcolm promoted up to 3rd in the GT3 field.
Yeah, I think
and that is a
Seb was the victim there of the slide on the start from his teammate, so he'll be wanting to work hard. Look, we've got 2 hours, so it's, you know what, still circulating. There's a tiny little bit of damage on that car, but still out there running, and obviously one of the quicker drivers, so we'll watch for him to move his way through the field.
I'd say it puts him super out of sequence if we were to see him come in and use a fast repair, but whether or not he might go 15 minutes into the race and grab a fast repair then and just sort of offset himself a little bit on strategy, maybe look to not require any fuel saving whatsoever, and that means he can just get the head down, pin the ears back, and push. Like you mentioned, it's a long race, it's a long lap, there's opportunities here, but I think this is one of those circuits that you really cannot afford to have any aero damage really affecting your straight line performance. You kind of got to have the car in its peak possible drag profile. So that's how the cars are normally set up when they come to Le Mans. They run a really low drag profile, low aerodynamic settings, as we're actually going to head up towards Indianapolis for the first time.
Yeah, and we're just jumping on board here on the nose of Jesse Butler as he hassles the back of Thomas in that BMW. He's trying to make his way through and progress his race, jump up behind Mark Gibson and try and pressure him at the early part of the race here. So these drivers jostling for position, and the fight here means that the guys at the front are starting to make a break away from it.
Yeah, so that's really going to continue to play. Whoa, who was that we just lost? Oh!
That was Gibson, and we had just a drive, an avoidance, we should say, from Jesse Butler there as well, just to make sure that he didn't end up cleaning up the back of Jeff Thomas. That was actually good driving from Jesse just to avoid the incident there. He'll probably get a slowdown penalty issued to him by iRacing, which is why you can see him there just pulling over to the side, but very good preventative driving from him there to make sure that he didn't end up wrecking his own race and someone else's in the process.
Yeah, look, and they are scrambling for positions and scrambling to be the one who can really pull away down the Mulsanne straight if they get that good run early. None of the guys able to settle right in at the moment. It is scramble. Look, when you run an endurance race, anyone that runs any endurance race will tell you that the early phases are about race preservation. If there's a move on, but the risk is too great, well then why are you even putting the car down there? What's the point in registering yourself in a 2-hour race if you're going to be out of that race 4 minutes into the event? It's just not worth it, and you'll see the guys really look to prioritize that, but also prioritize trying to get on with the job as soon as they can. There's a car around on the Mulsanne! Oh my word!
Who was that? That was Gibson. It was Mark Gibson.
And it was his teammate that was pushing him. I think they were going for a little bit of a bump draft.
That has not panned out anyway, even close to how they wanted that to pan out. As we jump back on board up the front here with Todd Gibson, who's still going, but yeah, there's a bent wing there on the back of the bowler as well, I believe. So we've got was that the bowler car? No, sorry, my apologies. That was on the back of Mark Samuel's car. So there's some extra damage there on a couple of these other cars early in this race. It's oh wow, and we just had an outbreak as well there, up into the back of the bowler Ferrari. So the bowler Porsche. We're just trying to catch up with everything here, and just struggling to keep up with every corner at the moment. There seems to be action as these guys try to sort it out. Hopefully that hasn't affected him too much. Yeah, he did do a really good job in avoiding that as well. There's been a couple of good saves through this. Just checking on board there, I think that was Matty Bowler that just got lifted off the ground at the back, but to be brutally honest, it doesn't look like there's any damage to that car whatsoever. Getting pretty lucky there with that outbreak from, I think it might have been
Was it Gibson? It was Todd Gibson, I think.
yeah, I think it was Todd Gibson. I don't know, the Gibson guys have changed their liveries this week, so it's just a little bit just adjusting the eyes to it, to be brutally honest.
I feel like Matty Bowler would take any opportunity to save his tyres, but I don't think having them lifted up by the car behind to get them off the circuit is the best way to save any tyres.
And these two out at the front here, what it's meant is they are in absolutely clean air. They're 10 seconds up the road already from Jeff Thomas in third. Thomas being put under pressure by Timothy Febin and Martin Lofthouse. So this is playing out really well for Braden Nash and his aspirations to take out this championship. We do know from the past that Brock often jests that he saves all the fuel and Braden spends it. So watch out for a little bit of that this evening as they work together to progress their team championship as well.
That's what I was thinking as well, just in the back of my mind. We might actually see them go on to alternative strategies just to cover the other cars off. That way, look, if something... They've got enough pace in the cars, they should be out in front, but if somebody magically manages to find a rabbit in the strategy hat, then they're just sort of covered off. And Schaefer won't mind running in behind Nash. Like you said, saves the fuel so that Nash can burn it. Well, Nash is punching an awful big hole in the air. Purnell's managed to put a little bit of a gap up the road. What's happened to Malcolm there as well? He was right up in the thick of things, and he's not anymore.
He had a slide earlier on, and what that's meant as well is Reece Grant's managed to move his way up into second spot, but he's being harassed at the moment by Michael Spithill in one of those Ferraris that you did discuss when we were having a look at the parity adjustments there as well. So Reece Grant going to have to be a little smart here in what he does, whether he decides to manage tyres and let the Ferrari go through if he is quicker, or to try and defend his position. But it's a long way to defend from here. He may be better off letting that car go and just settling into third place. He's got a gap behind him. Back to a teammate in Luke Trahair. And then Sebastian Murray-Westberg, we knew it wouldn't take him very long. He is flying through the field. As there's an issue there. Trahair stopped on the track. Was slowing on the track.
He would have gotten a slowdown, I think, potentially for cutting the Ford chicane.
Yeah, you picked it well. Absolutely. That's exactly what happened. So Murray-Westberg here from basically last on the grid after the start has already made his way back up to fourth. That's a very impressive drive so far.
Yeah, look, right, we've gotten the... Well, I love opening lap shenanigans, don't get me wrong, but we've gotten through that. Now the guys are just trying to put their heads down and, like I said, pin the ears back, probably the best way to go. Movers and shakers right throughout the field with a lot of that early contact. I tell you who has absolutely made the most of it is actually Mark Samuel. Matty Bowler's just managed to make his way back past Mark at this point in time. But Mark Samuel plus 7 positions from 15th on the grid all the way up to P8 at this point in time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I actually want to just try and go back while things have settled down here. We're 10 minutes into the race. And just try and unfold a little bit of what happened at the start here. We had Pete Edwards, who we're going to jump on board with now. This was before on the grid lap, on the dummy lap. He must not have heard in driver's briefing about the hole. It looks like he's just taken off and driven just slightly in the back of someone at the start there, so nothing too diabolical there. Matty Bowler was pretty much the start of all of this. You can see him there on screen. He's ended up going around, and it looks like just not enough room given on the inside there for him. So that's a completely innocent incident for him. But then we ended up with this one here. We're just going to wind it back a little bit. We'll have a look here at Phil Polito and Wade Reynolds, who, again, it looks like there just may not have been enough room given at the start of the lap. Oh, Phil's actually turned in across him there. So just a few driver mistakes. Unfortunately, Frank Hodak getting caught up in that as well at the start of this one. And that resulted in a couple of damaged cars. That Porsche there looking very second-hand with a broken left-hand rear wheel. So he's gone right across the track there. And, yeah, unfortunately that has meant that... he is back out in the race, but unfortunately a long way back down the pack.
Mate, I tell you what, that Porsche has got some serious issues. Whether or not he's broken something else in the rear end of the car, I don't think that's just that's a complete suspension collapse, isn't it? That's horrific. I
just had something flash up on the screen as well that I wanted to highlight to the audience while we were doing that package there. The Nash and Schaefer NSR guys had basically done identical laps. So they'd done a 3:48.86 and a 3:48.87. Only now for Braden to go slightly faster with a 48.68. So looks like it looks like there was maybe a small slowdown there for Schaefer behind him on this lap as that gap's open up to a second. But now a whopping 14 seconds in front of this chasing pack. Led by Jeff Thomas at the moment in the fastest of our M8 BMWs.
I'll tell you what, they're few and far between the BMWs, all but two of the... Whoa, that is a bent Porsche. That's two bent Porsches.
Yeah, I think
we're just finishing up the lap we were on.
Yeah, no, I think that unfortunately TK and Mark Gibson, they're getting involved in those accidents that we saw a little earlier on, just making their way back down to pit lane now to get that stuff addressed. So they will need to work hard for the rest of the evening to make their way back up from that. You'll see there the cars get fixed. They'll fuel up and then they'll try and run and have a shorter stint, a shorter refuel towards the end of the race.
Whether or not they were able to save some fuel there in the meantime, and it means down the line they might be able to spend less time static in the pit lane, they're going to have to try and utilise that to their advantage and pull back in here. But sometimes the benefit is that these guys get to run out on the track all on their own. They get away from the shenanigans that's happening elsewhere on the track. We talk about it so often about utilising the undercut. It's a lot harder to do that in endurance racing because you're making generally more pit stops. The race itself is going for longer periods of time. So, and the stops are generally, as we see one of the cones getting absolutely sent, and there goes Butler. So that would be the middle chicane on the Mulsanne Straight. Actually, that'd be the first chicane on the Mulsanne Straight. So that would have been a scary moment for him. Change of, can I have 4 new tyres and a set of underwear, please, will be the message to his pit crew when he finally gets around for his scheduled stop. I'm assuming, Stuart, again, that it's probably, we're looking at potentially a one-stop race. If there's fuel saving required, it'd be to the effect of about a lap at most. So it'd be interesting to see where the drivers pop out in that equation.
Yeah, we've had a question in from Nicholas as well. Thanks for the question, Nick. Is the BMW just not up to the Porsche? It's an interesting question. The BMW in iRacing is actually newer than the Porsche, so it's still kind of going through its development. In a lot of the long format racing that I've seen or that we're involved in, the BMW actually performs really well. So just tuning, some tracks favour some of the cars. Certainly in a straight line, the BMW should have the benefit over the Porsche. But of course, at this point in time, Tomo's not getting the benefit of any draft, so he's the one cutting the air open in front of the Porsches. He should, if he can now, be able to build a gap in front of these guys if he's quick enough to do it. So depends on the track. It can depend on the driver, but the BMWs generally perform reasonably well in the longer races. Their fuel economy is slightly better than the Porsche. Or actually, they've got a bigger tank than the Porsche, so they can run slightly longer. So yeah, it's just a matter of the driver, car, and track combo as always. So no, they can hold their own in their own right, which is sheer weight of numbers here. Obviously in the series at the moment, there's actually only 2 BMWs and the rest of the field is Porsche. So sheer weight of numbers means it's always going to be statistically more likely that a Porsche is going to get up.
Yeah, look, we did highlight in the pre-show for this evening's race as well that the BMW has actually received it's not really a balance of power adjustment. It's just more of they're looking overall at how the cars themselves actually handle. So BMW and the Porsche both received similar updates. The updates I was actually looking at in terms of the NASCAR setups, they're actually applied to the BMWs. So tire damping's been increased on them to assist with making the car feel less floaty through the corners. That's what it feels like. The BMW reminds me a lot in its old handling model of actually the 87's NASCARs in feel, like when you just jump in the car before you actually start to tune it down. So I actually like that change. It'd be interesting to see how they develop. And tonight, the update only come through last night, so this will be, for most, the practice for this event that they would have done today would be the first opportunity they've had to play around with the changes. So. Yeah,
and 2 follow-up questions to that as well. Yeah, the guys do tune their own cars, so we don't run fixed setups at all, so everyone's able to engineer the vehicles as much as they want. And that's why we switched the format as well to fortnightly, because it takes a long time to develop the setups for these cars, particularly with the changes. So a lot of the setups they've been working on throughout the week, with the changes that iRacing make to the way the cars handle and the aerodynamic changes, means a lot of that work will have been undone. So Generally, though, these guys will spend, you know, anywhere between 10 to 20 hours a week. The serious ones who do a lot of racing in the cars they're in, developing sets for them, and working on that vehicle. And then Darren's asked as well, given the longer lap times, will it really be a one-stop strategy for the teams? Will there be a splash and dash towards the last 10 minutes? I think there probably will be a splash and dash in the last 10 minutes. Again, it all depends on the impact of these changes that we've just seen, with the aero balance as well, and how that affects the fuel economy of the vehicle. If that really, it shouldn't make a lot of difference, but we really don't know because we haven't had the ability to jump into the test sessions and see how the guys are getting on. So it wouldn't surprise me if we did see some splash and dashes, or certainly some fuel saving here. It's not the hardest track to fuel save on because of the long straights, and the long braking zones into the chicanes. The guys can generally coast. So we'll jump on and see. Last fortnight fuel was a big issue, and fuel management was something that the guys had to do. So we'll see what brings tonight in the remaining hour 41.
Look, races can be won and lost in terms of fuel and tyre management. As we actually saw with Trent Lavest on Tuesday night, was... Look, he would have been unhappy to be sitting on the podium. Yeah, but... man, that was frustrating to see in terms of pace from him. Grant getting... So that's TK actually passing him 4 positions. There'll be no blue flag on offer here to warn TK of the approaching cars from a faster class. He would have probably got a spotter call out. Hey, we've got a car from the faster class coming up. They're actually racing us for track position. But the GT E-Cars, which is the Porsche, the BMW, is that all that we run in this series? I feel like the 4 GTs in there as well.
Yeah, it is. It's just no one runs it.
Yeah, so they have, I believe, more turbo pressure, or just slightly increased overall horsepower, which is why you see the cars are much for muchness through the corners, but it's the straights we actually see the real benefit for the GTE cars.
Important to note there as well, even with all the damage to the Gibson car that we're on board with now and to TK, because they got to drive back to the pits, they're still on the lead lap. So their night is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Reece Grant is making room there for Gibson to come through down the inside. He'll want to jump on the back and grab some draft where he can to try and pull that Audi down the straight. So they're not out of this by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever, which is good. In fact, all of our cars still on the lead lap because of the length of the lap here, so none of that early damage really affecting anyone too badly.
Can I just point out, man, that ranking guy, he's doing so poorly this evening.
Yeah, unfortunately, he had to pull out to commentate. Just a consequence of the changes to iRacing from an operations perspective for us as well, so just making it terribly difficult for us to get in and actually commentate the race. I managed to find another way into it, but unfortunately not enough time for Scott to do the same thing. So technical issues ahoy for us, but that is what it is.
I just like seeing my name up there in the standings.
Well, mate, technically you are coming last, so it's probably not where you want to be.
Can I at least have some points at the end of the night, maybe? Look, what are we at the moment? 20 minutes into the race, drivers would be on their 5th. They'd actually probably be on their 6th lap at this point in time as well. So, head down, ears pinned back. The margin from Brock Schaefer back to Jeff Thomas now is about 17 to 18 seconds. That's a lot of light flashing for Bowler on Fabian. I tell you what, he is not going to give him any room because I believe Fabian was the reason that Bowler ended up in the barriers.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. So hopefully no retribution and just some good driving, because we know Matty can do it. So we'll see how he gets through. Timothy Fabian obviously always also a very furious, serious competitor. So good to see these two next to one another, but the draft there is definitely helping Matty Bowler get through, or maybe even, dare we say, a redress from Fabian to apologise for what happened at the start of the race.
Maybe. The thing that I'm looking at those Porsches and thinking from the RSR guys is that all 3 of them were massively faster than the rest of the field. I'm actually going to go ahead and look at the pull away in a straight line. They're running a lower downforce package. There's no other way that you can really think about it. It's got to be a lower downforce setting from the RSR guys. Or the NSR, sorry.
Yeah, well, you know what? Those guys are fantastic at setting up those cars. They know the Porsche really, really well. They they know the whole package. So even if there were changes tonight, you know, they will have got on top of it at some stage over the day and got that done. So M1 cars about 7 to 8 k's down on the straight. So I'm assuming, Lee, you're talking about the M8. So we'll just jump on board here and see what he's. That's the case. We've got 304k an hour clock for Wade Reynolds and 300 for Tomo. So just trying to get an idea on whether or not that is the consequence of the aero changes or not.
Well, I think the good comparisons here is there's actually a few different comparisons to sort of look at.
Oh, the Mark
I
1
would
cars.
say to pull the NSR Porsches aside and let's not look at them. From my viewing, I think they're running a lower downforce package.
Yeah,
so I actually think...
And that's exactly what Lee's pointing to in the background here. He's saying that it's the Mark 1 cars are 7 to 8 k's an hour down on the straights than the NSR boys. So can only point to wing angle really there in terms of the difference in setups between the two. So and you can see that on the straight there with Bowler just literally blowing past Timothy Febben on the straight. So yeah, down to setup, and you know, that's the benefit, I guess, benefit or advantage or disadvantage of the open series. So guys doing it, managing to get some work in there to get it done.
I mean, when you look at things and you come to Le Mans, there's a reason that the LMP1 and LMP2 cars are named exactly that. Le Mans prototypes. They are a slick, clean hole that you're looking to punch in the air. If the Ford GT was going to be quick out of any of the tracks, it's here at Le Mans because of how long you're spending on the power. Ford versus Ferrari movie, very, very important because if you have a look at the profile and the attack profile that both of those cars create when they're punching a hole in the air, they're very low down compared to the Porsche, compared to the BMW. They're more road style going cars. They're not these sort of hypercars that are all designed about getting low, not punching that hole, and reducing just the overall front end surface area. So this is a track that you should really be seeing that, but then you go everywhere else and all of a sudden other characteristics of the car is so much more important that the reason a lot of these drivers do select to run, you know, the BMW or the Porsche is just purely because they're a much more all-round balanced car. Coming to Le Mans week, if I was to pick a car, probably the Ford GT or the Ferrari in either of these classes.
It's interesting as well. I've just noticed, having a look back down, just to keep an eye on the GT3 field, we'll jump back down there for a minute to see that we've had Michael Spithill, Sebastian Murray-Westberg, Pete Edwards and Josh Maynard all go through pit lane, and they did stop, particularly in the case of Spithill and Murray-Westberg. They refueled, so they must be concerned about not making it to the end on the fuel that they're on in terms of a one-stop strategy, and have elected to pull in, top up, get out of the pack, and then get back on with it again. You can see Michael Spithill here on the back of Reece Ashmore, who's made room for him to go through. So they're running an alternate strategy now to the other GT3s in front of them. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll keep an eye on it over the remainder of the race.
So the other thing that would be important to note for Sebastian Murray-Westberg is that he did have that little bit of creasing in the front end of the car. So I'd say when he's coming to service, it wasn't necessarily a fuel. He wanted to go enough into the fuel window that there was some room in the tank to really make sure that he was topped up and he could get back out there and really sort of push and put the foot down. But he also wanted to get that quick repair out of the way and really get the car looking cleaner as soon as possible. So
yeah, any damage to the front of the cars here is detrimental. With such a long straight, you have to basically have perfect aero on these things to make them as quick as they can be in a straight line. So definitely, I think you're onto something there as well as far as Sebastian Murray-Westberg is concerned.
I mean, you want to dive into when something like that happens, you want to dive into pit lane nice and early, right? But you also want to make sure that your stop is worthwhile.
Yep.
And strategically, yeah, in terms of his mind and where his overall position is in the race, there would have been a few factors, and that's sort of where all of those factors would have come into it. I'm actually looking. There's a battle, I think, between the Must Stick, Ron Polito, and Mark Samuel actually forming in the GTE class.
Yeah, well, Jace looked like he had an off at the start there, and yeah, Darren, you're right. NSR is 1-2-3 as Bowler has moved past Thomas as well. So we'll just quickly jump on board there and show you that Thomas under pressure from Timothy Fevin as well. We've got actually the battle is Polito, Samuels, and then Timothy Russell. So Ron Polito on the defensive at the moment, coming down here, and you're going to see here Mark Samuel looking everywhere he can for a way around, and they're both just avoiding a slowdown there, but you can see that's going to benefit Timothy Russell as he challenges now Mark Samuel for the position off my monitor for some reason for 8th position. 8th, 9th and 10th is this battle here, so fighting hard. And this is generally what we see in this mid-pack. We talk about it all the time. We've got the guys, thanks Wacko, we've got the guys straight at the front of the field, your NSRs, your Mark 1 guys, who are up there week in, week out. And then, yeah, we always have this awesome mid-pack battle, and we've spoken about it a lot. Ron Polito, for the new watchers to our stream, relatively new to iRacing. I say that now, he's 6 months into it. Really clean, competitive and consistent driver, and we get to enjoy watching him battle through the pack each fortnight. So and again tonight with Samuel and Russell. Samuel so good to see here these guys keeping it clean, but keeping it close.
Yep. And you'll see this right throughout. I mean, again, the benefits of the Mulsanne straight and how long you spend at full throttle is that the cars will just overtake each other, 1, 2, 3 times a lap basically, just purely because they're all getting the draft off each other. Then one of them will punch the hole in the air. It's really like cycling a little bit, which is a weird comparison, but this is exactly what you'll see cyclists during the Tour de France.
It's actually a really good comparison. I haven't thought about it that way.
Well, the way that they generally work in cycling is it's actually a team sport, and the reason that it's a team sport is because you'll have your pusher. His role within the team is never based around his own individual result. So what ends up happening with these pushers is they're generally cyclists that are nearing towards the back end of their career, and they've got a little bit of experience and knowledge that they can partake. But all of a sudden, their role will shift over to being pushing the aero in front, and it's actually the reason you see pelotons form. It means that teams can save their pushers for right at the end of the race, and then all of a sudden burn up all of their energy when they try to break away in a 4-person battle pack. Then you'll have your mountain climbers. These guys are sprint specialists. Their whole idea is that they'll have a specific section of the race that they're out to try and get the fastest time through. Car racing, you'll see that as well. All of a sudden you'll come out of a stop. There's 10 seconds that needs to be made up over the next 10, 15 laps, and then you'll settle back into your rhythm pace. So occasionally you'll see that, a lot less often than you will your mountain climbers and your sprinters. And then obviously you've got your guys who are looking to get out there nice and early, punch a big hole in the air, and be out on their own and with no support whatsoever. So, look, cycling, a lot of people look at it and just go, oh, it's nowhere near racing whatsoever, but it actually kind of is.
Yeah, for me, that's pretty much where the similarities end in terms of excitement and just about everything else. So, we'll jump back on the battle here with Lofthouse and Timothy Fevin. It is still nice and close between these two as well. So, of course, Jeff...
Hang on. What's happened to Fevin? Because Fevin was all over the rear end of Thomas.
He got a drive-through. He got a slow-down penalty for a chicane incident.
Chicane infringement, shall we say?
Infringement, probably a much better word than incident. But yeah, he got a slowdown the lap. I was on board with Braden Nash, and I was trying to stick with him until the conclusion of it. He's just done the fastest lap of the race, plenty of purple in the last lap that he did with a 47.5. So as the fuel load starts to come out of that car, he's just getting quicker and quicker and quicker. He's actually over a second faster than Schaefer on the last lap, and about the same again to Matty Bowler. So those NSR guys, yep, definitely managing to adapt to the changes to the Porsche very quickly, and it's showing here tonight as we're witnessing potentially our first NSR 123.
Yep, And something else to consider right now is that Nash might be moving into that sprinter role at this point in time. Like we said, like I did say earlier, I actually think that these guys might try and separate their strategies a little bit. I think you might see Schaefer look to make those tyres last the distance. And I think Nash might be on the alternative push strategy, whereby he is going to take tyres at the stop. And look, this way it sort of just guarantees that one of them will finish on top of the podium, basically. So then the team race and the team orders can come into things, and whether or not they're allowed to race each other, I guarantee that they both want to race each other very, very much will come into things right at the end of the race. Whether or not, though, Nash might actually have a better feel for a lower tank car as well. So I'd say Schaefer might be quicker on a fuller tank car.
Well, only time will tell. Brock has managed to do basically entire races without changing tyres before, in terms of 4-hour races. So, you know, those guys, again, as I said before, understand how these Porsches work, understand how to get the best out of them, and, you know, anything...
Man, it's crazy.
Anything could happen.
Did you just say 4 hours on one set of tyres?
He did 3 stints in a 4-hour race on one set of tyres, yes.
Far out!
So they know how to manage the product on those Porsches. So yeah, no, the masters of fuel saving, they just understand the car really well. So it wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to be surprised no matter what they do, because generally we don't pick what's going on with the NSR guys. They run to the beat of their own drum, which serves them well. So at the moment, putting on a solid display with the top 3 places.
Look, somebody reach out to Pirelli and get Braden Nash a sponsorship so that he doesn't need to hang on to those tyres as long as the rest of them.
So we're just back on board now with Timothy Russell and Ron Toledo, still battling it out for 9th and 10th after the slowdown that Tim Russell got. The lap times here for these two guys relatively similar. Definitely the benefit of the draft serving Toledo though. Extra down the straight last time around. Braden Nash top speed at the moment 314 kilometers an hour. So definitely faster in the straight line than the rest of the pack.
What am I looking for right now? Where are we seeing? There's another battle, I believe it might be between Gibson. It's either with Mark Gibson and Frank Kodak, or it's TK and Mark Gibson.
Yeah, no, it's TK and Gibson. I think they're actually working together to try and get back up through the field, obviously on the same team. So the guys there, having done their pit stops early to repair that damage, just trying to make their way back up onto the back of the Toledo. Russell battle about 43 seconds up the road, so obviously the draft going to help them make that a little bit easier with the long straight here too. So
the only thing in my mind is, do you think that they had a word about bump drafting in the Porsches?
Yeah, potentially so. I'm actually surprised that anyone would do that in the Porsche, to be honest. It's not going to give you the benefit versus or the risk versus the reward. So just keep it right there. Jump on board.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say we
sorry.
jumped on board with Reece Grant here, currently occupying 2nd place. And there's a little bit of out of step here for these guys, because Michael Spithill and Sebastian Murray-Westberg, as we mentioned before, have both gone through pit lane and taken fuel. So I'm just keeping an eye on Murray-Westberg. I'm expecting him to come back up through the pack. He's actually matching the times of the leaders at the moment in the GT3 class. So is Pete Edwards, so expect to see them make their way back up the field as Grant and Purnell do get through pit lane. Strategy here going to be really important for those guys.
So quick note on that, that's the benefit of those guys driving through pit lane nice and early, is that we actually get our pit lane delta. So the pit lane delta this evening is about 38 seconds.
Yep.
So
relatively quick, actually.
Yeah, which, I mean, they do get to shortcut the Ford chicane, so they don't actually have to drive through that.
True.
And they can actually drive pretty much straight and flat out. There's a little kink in the pit entry, which is about, that's actually a major feature of this track. You can't just show up here and just drive down pit lane and go, oh yeah, I'll be right. No. You got to drive to the entry to pit lane, make sure you know that, because it has its own braking markers that you need to be aware of.
Thanks for joining in the stream there, Ella, as well. Matty Bowler doing a fantastic job getting back up to 3rd place after a couple of early incidents in the race, but he's running strong again now in currently a NSR Motorsports 1, 2, 3 as we sit. So doing a good job.
Musket just said on the in-game chat, we're eating ice cream.
Yeah, that's a bit of a trait of Jace there. He's it harks back to Days of Thunder when they make a call to go into pit lane and Paul Trickle's told that they can't service his car at the moment because they're busy, and when he says busy doing what, they say eating ice cream. So yeah, that's one of the ones. He also does often he does crack out some KFC style. I'll have a zinger box, please, in the longer races. So a bit of a character. Musk stick. He does enjoy using the push to talk buttons a little bit too much. It's always good for a laugh.
Oh mate, I can tell you for a fact that Jordy Malcolm's the same. Would you be sitting there and going, you're not going to believe this, but you're the fastest car on the track? And I'll go, what? You go, no, sorry. No, my bad. I was looking at the leader, not you.
Oh wow. A little bit of in-team roasting.
Well, that's the part, right? When what's your favorite trick for trying to keep you concentrated during endurance racing? Because that's ours with the banter. We do the 3-hour races pretty much every weekend, and that's how we keep ourselves focused. Is just a little bit of banter back and forward. And anytime you see an overtake from Geordie, I can guarantee you he's saying "see you, mate" through the headset. So.
Yeah, there's a couple of different things. I mean, I generally, solo racing, particularly in the longer format, 24-hour races, when you might be doing it almost solo for an hour or two, generally just listening to music. But otherwise, I sit in the Discord channel for the team and, just have the chat going on in the background. So some drivers find it distracting in the team. I prefer it. It's just white noise and just make sure that I'm, still going around and just get into that zone. So yeah, everyone's a little bit different, but that's certainly I get around.
So get your predictions in. For first time in a while, the F1s have gone to Mugello this weekend. I think it's going to be Mercedes again, but I'm hoping for another very high temperature race because they just don't like it, do they?
No, and more interest for mine is the announcement today about Sebastian Vettel going to what will be Aston Martin next year. I think that's a fantastic pickup for them. I think he's going to do really well there, and I think, as usual, what happens at Ferrari when drivers don't do well is everything turns sour. So there's no doubting his quality as a driver. So he'll be a big asset to a new team or a newish team. And particularly if he can work well with a younger driver, so keen to see what happens there next year.
Yeah, fingers crossed that Bottas's complaints about engine modes get heard by the FAA. I don't think they will. I think they'll still stick with things as they are. Just keeping an eye on Fabian here. A little bit of traffic management starting to play into the race, as you actually see Joshua Maynard make sure that he gets nicely out of the way from Martin Lofthouse, and then sticks his bumper right in underneath the rear wing of the BMW as early as he possibly can. Fabian and Lofthouse will make their way past the slower GT3 car in the upcoming straights, but it's all about traffic management. Knowing when we go to tracks like Catalunya, where it is very, very difficult to pass, if you identify a sector early on where there is no overtake, the risk to overtaking far outweighs the reward. Then you'll find yourself with a cleaner car towards the back end of the race. And a lot of these guys would look at that and go, I know how to stick the car down there, is it worth it? Well, Le Mans don't need to do that. The straights are so long, so wide, it's literally night and day in terms of getting past. So the drivers will certainly identify that coming into the braking zones right at the back end of the track, coming off the Corvette curves, and down towards the Ford chicanes, that look at the first section of the Ford chicanes, there's an overtaking opportunity there. The second set of the Ford chicanes, nah, get out of that. Do not make an overtake there. You're just going to be risking the front end of the car. So making sure that you're either maybe sitting back a little bit on the car, if you know that you're going to catch a car in an awkward part of the lap, can sometimes play into your favor. A little bit of tire, a little bit of fuel saving. or pushing a little bit harder to make sure you catch them and get around them beforehand, is what you can actually do from a traffic management side of things. So, Stuart, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, well, we spoke about it in the driver's briefing, importantly as well. Obviously, the huge speed differential between these cars, looking at around about 10 seconds a lap faster in the GTEs than the GT3s. So we're very, very big on making sure that everyone understood that if they maintain their line, the GTE drivers, it was their responsibility to make their way around the other cars safely. And the best way to do that is to stick to your lines. Then the driver knows what you're going to do, and obviously use those long straights to make sure that you get through safely and that we didn't end up with any incidents from it. And so far so good. So credits to the drivers there. Braden Nash has just put in yet again another new fastest lap of the race. We're down to a 47.23, 3 seconds faster than Schaefer behind him, and Bowler behind him equally. So we're also getting first of our pit lane entries here. We've had Thomas and Lofthouse jump into pit lane. So we're sitting at an hour 16 to go. A little bit early, but buying into that question that we got earlier on about whether or not the guys were going to need to do a splash and dash that Darren Bowler asked us. This would suggest yes. I mean, not making it to the hour mark without a pits, with having to serve your first pit stop, we'll generally see these guys unfortunately have to do a splash and dash towards the end. So, as usual, the last 30 minutes of the race is going to be the critical point for these guys to make sure that they can get to the end.
And something else you actually brought my mind to in terms of pace right now, Schaefer on his last lap around at a 350.3, he's fuel saving. He's 100% fuel saving. So we're definitely seeing the NSR Porsches diverge in their strategy. I have a feeling we might see Nash into the box this lap. If not this lap, it'll be the next lap afterwards to get his service completed and that tank top back up. But I have a strong feeling it's this lap. I get the feeling that if Schaefer has been saving long enough, we're going to see 2 extra laps at most, which should be enough to get him to the hour mark and home on that one-stop strategy.
I was going to say, I'm like we always do, I'm going to agree to disagree with you. I don't think he's fuel saving at all. I think majority of the field are now running in that 350 section. So I think he's just dropped off. You can see there he's struggling a little bit with tyres as well. So potentially his pace has just dropped off slightly more than Braden Nash's. Part of that might be sitting behind Nash for a period of time, and I think Nash is driving away with it. So we'll see.
Big tell. Look, I mean, yeah, I'd agree with you based on the sketchiness. I can tell you 100% for sure that Nash will not be saving that. You don't turn fastest laps of the race whilst you're fuel saving. That's just a no bueno right there. What's happening in terms of the GT3 fields? Malcolm has come in and done a stop. He's done the longest stop of a lot of them, so that's a planned strategy. He's definitely two-stopping.
I just want to quickly jump in here and make a note that I think that we may have had an issue. TK's car there is very bent in the back end of it. I'm just going to jump into a replay just to see what happened here. I think that this is exactly what I thought had happened. We've got 3 cars here drafting, and one of them forgot to stop, and all 3 of them got penalised for it. So that's the team strategy there with these guys. It was Mark Gibson, TK, and also Todd Gibson, all trying to use the benefit of the draft to one another's advantage there. And unfortunately, TK at the front of that pack has paid the penalty for a little bit of out-braking, I think is what has happened there. So unfortunate for those guys, they were working their way back through the field.
Tell you what, TK is in the whoop tonight.
He is, yeah. He hasn't managed to get out of it. More drafting going on here again. You think that they might have learnt from the incident that just happened, but they'll be back in it together. TK really the one that needs the benefit of the draft to get back to the pits as quickly as he can with that bent wing. Otherwise, he's going to have to sit in this pack to try and keep that car as quick as possible down the straight. You can see there it's got a lot of damage on the right-hand rear corner of it. In fact, it's just not turning in at all. And he needs to get that one back to the pit lane as quickly as he can.
That's steering bent. That is a bent. That's massively bent steering. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the cambers or the toe on one of these wheels is just completely bent all out of whack. And well, Thomas says, I've done my stop. Why am I on the rear end of you guys already? So he'll be aware and alert that something's happened.
Yeah, I just jumped on board with him as he ran wide as well. We just had another fastest lap. Braden Nash dropping down into the 46s now, so fantastic effort from him. I want to jump on board very quickly with this man here in the background, Frank Hodak, in one of the best liveries I've seen on one of these cars. Done that himself there. He is a very creative man with sponsorship from the Ben Motorsport Park, and I wanted to use that as a segue into the V8 supercars that are going to be there for the next 2 weekends. Not this one coming, not the one starting tomorrow, but for the next 2 weekends following that. So going to be interesting to see how they get around. They're going to run the 2 different track formats as well, so looking forward to that when that happens.
That brings up an interesting note on the topic. Whoa!
Yeah, I think unfortunately that was TK coming to a conclusion on his way into pit lane. We can't quite see that on there. It hasn't brought up a notification for me to go back to either to see it because it's happened in pit lane. So I think unfortunately TK's night might be over.
I think he's got one fast repair left. Because he used one earlier on, but that'll be it. He's going to stay right away from his teammates, that's for sure.
I'm hoping he didn't need to get a tow then into pit lane from that shorter distance. That would be a terrible penalty to pay. As we watch here with on board with Nash again as he starts to make his way through some more of the traffic. He's actually lapped up to and including 17th position. Sebastian Murray-Westberg in front of him and Dave Johnson in front of him equally. Dave doing the smart thing there in terms of race management, even though that was for position, just moving to the side and letting these guys get through. So Dave did really well in our first season in the GT3 category, finishing 4th, and a lot of that was only because of how well he managed his races and how consistent his results were. So doing the right thing again there in terms of looking at the bigger picture, not necessarily at the 100 or 200 metres of track in front of him.
Yeah, he's actually going to come out 2 positions worse off at the end of everything there, but again, I think he's right. I think he's onto something. Sometimes, as a racer, your first thought, 9 times out of 10 is, I've got to defend, I've got to block, I've got to try and keep his position, or gain a position as best as I possibly can. And well, in that scenario, when the risk factor is, I'm going to end up in the wall, or I'm going to end up with my position. Look, I'm gonna take the option where I get right out of the way, let things go, and settle back on. And look, if I'm faster than the guy ahead, eventually I'm gonna find my way back past him, or whether I outsmart him in terms of strategy as well. So yeah, actually I can bring you a little bit of an update on TK. TK's actually left the server. He's had enough for the tonight. So maybe you were right. Maybe he had burned through his other fast repair as well. So.
Nicholas just asked how the NSR cars are punching constant fast laps but have much better fuel economy than the other Porsches.
I actually think it's down to that. I reckon they're burning less fuel because they are punching less of the hole in the air with the aero package as well.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of it tonight, Nicholas, is literally down to the change in aero package. They've just managed to adapt quicker to it than the other Porsches around them, and that's just given them that benefit. Remember, the track that we're on with such a long straight, aerodynamics, massive impact on the overall top speed of the cars, and those NSR Porsches, as it was quite rightly pointed out, are around about, what have we got, 4 or 5, nearly 6 k's an hour at the moment faster in a straight line than the Porsches of the competing teams behind them. So they've just managed to get the benefit there with such a long straight, 10 k's an hour, up to 10 k's an hour, at, down a kilometre and a half of the track is a huge advantage per lap.
And I mean, sure, the time's there to wind the cars up. The speed differences between the GT3 cars and the GTE cars is only in the space or the realm of top speeds. What are we looking at? 307 I've got for Gibson. No, he's in a Porsche. That's the wrong class.
You're looking at-
294 for Reese Ashmore and 296 for Murray Westberg.
I was
So
gonna say,
it's
it's in the mid 290s.
that's the faster cars. The guys that are running maybe potentially a little bit more downforce on those things. Jordan Malcolm actually just did 302 kilometers an hour, so he's clearly on the toe, I'd have to say. I don't think you'd be able to do that without the toe of somebody around you. But
No.
well, look, that'd be a Mercedes. If it was a Formula 1 car, I feel like there'd be a gearbox spitting parts out the rear end of that thing, that's for sure.
So we've got just over an hour left, an hour 7 to go, so expecting to see the remainder of our GT3 and GTE cars in at around that hour mark. If they've made it that far without a pit stop, they're going to be able to make it to the end. At this stage, I'm just showing Reese Ashmore yet to make a stop in that Audi, so he is currently one of the few GT3s out, as our race leader has popped in along with second place Reese Grant in the GTE fields. So now what we're looking for, as Luke Dreher pops in as well, is where is Sebastian Murray Westwood? He has done his splash and dash stop. He's just coming through the Ford chicanes.
Was that Schaefer that just dived in as well?
Now, yes it was. So the two NSR cars in as well with only 6 minutes to go. So this is where we're going to have a look. Once this all cycles through, we're still 6 minutes shy of an hour of this race to go. Murray Westberg has moved up in a second place. And what that means now, with that splash and dash that he did, he can do a shorter stop at the end, but if Purnell is going to make it through to the end of this race, he has to fuel save a whopping 6 minutes of fuel around this track, which means he has to start fuel saving now. So
I don't think it's possible.
I don't think it is either, but we've seen crazy things in the past, so...
Well, let's have a look at his pace. So his best lap is in race trim is a 3:58. So we're just gonna have to keep an eye. It's gonna be consistent. There's no way that you can fuel save all in one big clump either. It's gonna be consistently throughout a stint. Now, again, keep coming back to the Mulsanne Straight, but that's because it is the defining feature. Whoa, that's a bent rear wing. What did that happen?
Rear wing for Ron Polito there. I think he's had that for a little while actually, so he's going to come into pit lane, get that repaired. I was just jumping on board with him as the last of our GTE cars that hadn't been into pit lane yet, so he's serving his pit lane now. So everyone's going to have to run the fuel save or the run it and hope strategy, as no one's made it to the hour mark without pitting.
Interesting. Yeah, look, I'm gonna be honest. I think we've got a splash. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I really like having a splash and dash scenario because it's just good, right? Yeah. How much do you want to fuel save? You know, you get to make that decision. Did you want to take tires at any point? Do you really want to push? I don't think you'll see anybody take tires. The GT3 cars, if they're going to take tires, they would have taken them just now. Otherwise, it's going to be settle and carry the tires right throughout the race. Oh, man, that is a beautiful shot sometimes.
Just wanted to see, so we talk about the masters of saving fuel. Schaefer's amongst the best of them. Just want to have a listen now to see if he's decided he's going to try and fuel save for the hour. So we'll just jump on board with him as he gets down. We're waiting to hear if he starts coasting as he gets towards the end of the straight here.
That's a bad time for him to be saving, purely because he was getting so close to Traher. So if he is going to be fuel saving, it'll be this next segment when he's got clear track ahead of him. Keen to note as well, on the exit of that chicane on the right hand side, if you get right out and up against the wall, there's actually a little jump there that you'll hit. So drivers need to be careful. That's one of the little features of the track I need to be careful of. I don't think there's any saving there.
No, not at this point in time. Doesn't sound like it. Just noticed there that Pete Edwards has had a crash, so jump back and have a quick look at that. And he's actually had two, so say it's been a reasonable amount of damage on that first instance. No, Darren, none of the NSR boys took tyres whatsoever, so that's they're going to get through this. Actually haven't touched on track temperature either, so I might just do that quickly to have a look at where that's at. And it doesn't help when I do that. So what I actually meant to do is do that. So what we've got is 28 degrees on track, so not ridiculously hot. Certainly one of the cooler races that we run, generally seeing north of 30-degree track temperatures easily in a majority of the races that we run. So tyre wear here should be good. It'll only get better over the next hour as well. So should be fine for tyres to the end.
Just having a look through, Maynard ended up in an accident as well at one point, so Pete Edwards has just made his way back into the pit lane now, so both of those accidents occurring on that last lap.
Just jump on with that replay there of Pete Edwards just to see if we can unleash what happened.
Oh, he's just gone in way too hot.
Yeah, by the look of it, and just over-rotated the car. Yeah, he has. So not too much damage there at all. So I'm wondering how he's had. Maybe it's registered a second off track right now. Yeah, it will have registered there. So no damage done really there. I'm not sure why he's run through the pit lane. He's watched his relatives. He's done a great job re-entering the track. Actually, well done to him. Another point that we focused on during the driver's briefing. So a good job from him. No damage done to his race really, and fortunately no damage to anyone else's. As we jump back on board with him live. And we're with Brock Schaefer. Just jump back through the field. We've got Matty Bowler in third at the moment after the pit stops. He's around 25 seconds behind Brock Schaefer in second. Timothy Febben only 2.9 seconds down the road. That gap has closed as a consequence of the pit stops. Only about a second pit lane differential between those, pit lane time difference between those two guys. So a little bit of lap time involved there in terms of the difference or addressing that gap. Maybe slow down as well. We didn't quite see that. The NSR guys have been right out in front, so keep an eye on that gap and see if it does close up any at all. There's no damage to the bowler car, so you'd assume that was it, but he's just had a slowdown for potentially cutting one of the chicanes, and that's why we can now see Timothy Febben just in the top of the image there.
I was actually looking at that and thinking, man, he is using a lot of that entry curve to the Mulsanne straight, so... But anyway, no slowdown was processed, so there you go. You can actually use a lot of that entry curve onto the Mulsanne straight. So every time you see these guys out, like, it's good to just look at what extents they're using on the track, because it's something that you can take an adjustment to your driving as well. Not necessarily, you know, maybe their lines, their inputs, their braking marks. It's quite hard to pick up a lot of that from shots like this, but the things that you can really easily pick up is track limit usage. And the NSR guys, they are fast, sure, and their setup's allowing them to pull a little bit more out of the lap time, but knowing the absolute limits of the track that you can use is always going to allow you to just get a lot more bang for your buck. That's a...
I think that's
Luke Traher?
Yeah, I think that's Luke Traher there. He's obviously had an incident. We didn't get any notification of that. Oh yeah, actually it's just come up on the screen now. So he's had an incident there too. So we'll jump back and have a quick look at that. But that Audi looking reasonably second-hand. So he'll have to come through and get that fixed.
I'll tell you what, can we get some of these iRacing mechanics and engineers out there in the V8 supercars world and get them fixing cars like that?
Jump on board with our race leader, Braden Nash, who is still 18 seconds out in front here. I just want to just quickly bring this up, this Luke Traher incident, just what happened there. So jump through and have a look at that.
That's the first.
Just, oh wow.
What's he doing on that side of the track?
That's an interesting one. I'm not really sure what's happened there, where he's maybe thought he was on a different part of the track in terms of moving over onto the inside of the corner there, and that's resulted in that rotation and that tyre wall that's damaged the back wing on that car. So an interesting incident there.
When I was learning the track recently, that's one of the things I did note was that both of the Mulsanne chicanes look reasonably similar.
Oh yeah, it's easy to get confused around here as to where you are on the track if you're not paying attention.
I mean, the rest of everything is reasonably easy to sort of pick out where you are, but the Mulsanne chicanes are just something completely and utterly different.
Thanks for
The other thing, maybe he was doing a setup tweak or looking at stops or looking at fuel numbers.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Just an unusual place to have that happen. He's just lost sight of where he was into the braking marker. The other thing that I just really wanted to touch on is this change.
What?
So we're now with the leader of the GT3 category, Sebastian Murray-Westberg, who has jumped out in front of Chris Purnell. Now, this is not how they left pit lane, so I can only assume, and I was looking back here at the incident, I can only assume that Purnell perhaps has had a slowdown penalty for maybe overusing the track, and that's allowed Murray-Westberg to get through.
Or his fuel saving, because Reese Grant, who is also a part of the Virtual Motorsport Mentors outfit, they're running near identical lap times. They're fuel saving.
They are, absolutely. You are spot on. Let's jump on board and have a listen to that. We'll jump inside with Purnell.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, I still think you're right. It's a 3-second lap differential. They were running mid 57s all of the first stint, and they're magically now suddenly running 4-minute laps. So I think you're right that they're trying to fuel save. They're driving.
Alternatively, 100 litres of fuel is a lot of fuel, so it could be that. And the differential here is that SMW is actually at the back end of his stint now, so that we could actually be seeing the fuel weight differential between the two cars.
True. Well,
so there's a few factors. Yeah.
We know that no one made it to the L mark, and that's the critical point. So they are going to have to do one or the other, because they will not make it to the end of this race.
Well, I can tell you one thing that is definitely for sure. SMW has another stop to make, so he will be good to get home for whenever he does come in for that extra stop, because remember, right back at the start of the race, he had to make a stop for damage that was, just unfortunately his teammate getting wild and weary on cold tyres. He had creases in the car. That 15 minutes that he made up at the start of the race, that might just save him here, and Purnell's got to make a decision. He's got to make a decision, I'd say, probably in the next 1 or 2 laps about which strategy he's going to go on, because if he doesn't, and he makes the wrong call now, it's going to be way too late to course correct.
Well, I've just been bashing the calculator in the background here, and I think that Murray-Westberg has enough fuel to make it through to around lap 22, and we should see around 27 laps in the race. So, yeah, there's no way that he's getting home, so he'll be pinning those in. Whoa. 27 to 30 laps in the race, I reckon, is the window that we're looking at. And yeah, I think he's going to be in at around 22. So, as we say, time will tell. He's got one thing he has to do is build the margin as much as he can at the moment to make sure that he gives himself the best chance of getting back out if Purnell does have to splash and dash at the end. Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? There's a car that I don't think either of us after the first lap went, hang on, maybe this guy's got it. We did say though as well that he would be charging through the field because he was one of the quickest guys in qualifying. In fact, he was second on the grid. So we knew uninterrupted that he would probably make his way back up to the front of the field, and potentially that early stop giving him the clear air to run in has helped. Mate, wow. I'll tell you what, if SMW winds up winning this thing, he's going to ask his teammate to putt him off on the first couple of corners every race. Yeah, I think he would have preferred the clean race, but we just see this gap here between Febin and Bowler has just stabilised at 2.6. It looks closer than it is just because of the position on the track that the camera is poised in, but it's moved out a little bit now to 2.6, 2.7 seconds. on this current lap. So doing basically equal lap times between the two, and that is just stabilising that gap a little bit. The field sort of settled. We've got Martin Lofthouse now in 5th position. He's up 4 spots in the Porsche, followed by Jason Muscat. He is 7 seconds further back down the road, so they're running their own races at the moment. And then, like pit stops had never been taken, Mark Samuel and Timothy Russell still fighting away as they entered the pit lane. They exit, and there's less than a quarter of a second between those two cars. Two of our biggest movers in this field, so up 8 positions and 9 positions respectively from the start of the race. So these two running a good race, and I don't know if they're working together or not, but it's certainly helping them.
Tell you what, Russell was looking a little bit racy then for half a second. I don't know that there was much of a margin between his front bumper and the rear end of the Mark Samuel Mark 1 Porsche, so he's going to be head down. Interesting to see whether or not these guys race each other all that hard. Now, remember, keep in the back of your mind that if most of the field have opted to the same sort of tyre strategy, there's the benefit of the draft. Gets an overlap. First chicane will go right, left, right, I believe. Yeah, it does. And then, they're going to go side by side. No, lets him go. So, again, preservation. You know that you're going to get the benefit of the draft down the second section of the Mulsanne straight, so just let him go, suck yourself back up underneath the rear bumper of that car, and get that advantage is what's going through the mind of Mark Samuel. And I'd say that this is just going to continue for the rest of the race.
That's kind of what we're trying to look at here. You can see they're just going to keep doing this swap strategy for a little bit, where you lead for some sections and I'll lead for other sections, and we'll all make it back to the start of the lap.
So something else that popped into the back of my mind as well is that Fabian is on a different setup, right? His tyres are going to be fresher, especially if he manages to close in on the rear end of Matty Bowler. So if he's running a little bit more downforce, then that means he's a lot more stable. We've got some actually extended high load sections to the track. You've got Indianapolis, which is, a reasonably fast right-hand kink, immediately followed by a heavy braking zone. Then you come around to the left, another heavy braking zone, back around to the right. So those sections of the track are much more stable for anyone running a higher downforce car. Also plays itself out through the Porsche curves, and then down there through the Corvette curves. Then you've got the Ford curve and the Ford chicane as well. So this whole, basically anywhere that's not the Mulsanne straight, you're going to be looking after your tyres, and even though you're losing time on the straight, you're looking after the car in a better way. So I don't think Bowler's safe to Fabian. I think Fabian's going to come back at him.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, Matty Bowler's been putting in, consistent lap times as well. He was fast during that lighter fuel load section of his first stint. So we'll just see what Bowler does here. And the gap continues to open up a bit. So we're at 3.5 seconds at the moment. With the straight line speed that car's got, I think he may be able to get away again enough to defend himself if he has to splash and dash at the end. Keeping an eye as well on this lead of this GT3 race that we were talking about before. There's no doubt that Purnell is still saving the gap now out to 4.5 seconds between himself and Sebastian Murray-Westberg, and the gap back to Reece Grant, they're now 27 seconds. So their strategy, absolutely, I think, is to try and do this on one stop, and they'll be driving to a number. As we said, Murray-Westberg going to require another pit stop, probably around lap 22. We're currently just about to start lap 18.
So it's coming, and it's coming in a big way. So 15 minutes probably away from this race really starting to excite up to Stuart. It's that number again, isn't it? It's for half an hour. It's the silly season. We need a better name for it.
38 minutes. Always the last 30 minutes. I feel like we need to be talking the Iron Maiden song, 2 minutes to midnight. Thanks very much for the comment there. We might just shut these guys down before they decide to take over the chat with all of this rubbish that they're about to post on the stream. Then we don't want to become famous, we just want to watch car racing, but thanks very much for the offer.
Are you saying I'm not famous?
So, yeah, no, I think, I can't even remember what I was saying now. Yeah, 2 minutes to midnight Iron Maiden, but sort of, we need to have it sort of 30 minutes to midnight. Brad the Race, Brad Clinks just chimed in. G'day Brad, thanks for joining the stream. Tuning in for the first time, how would we describe the race, Brad? Two of your teammates ran into one another on the very first corner of the race, but one of them now leads the race after that incident, and it's your man, Sebastian Murray-Westberg, out in front. So,
Admittedly, he's not the Ford, so we're a little bit disappointed with that, but hey, we'll take it.
Sorry, Darren, I actually sat back in my chair away from the mic, so that's I got a little bit quieter. It was a tragic day. I actually lost my broadcasting headset today after I snapped the USB connector out of the back of the computer, tripping over the cable and nearly falling over in the office. So that's my highlight of the day. So I'm on another mic that I'm not used to using tonight. So we'll have a ceremony later on for my broadcasting headset. As Murray Westberg is in pit lane earlier than I anticipated. So perhaps not quite getting to that fuel number. He's going to have to be on the... What are we going to guess here? He's going to have to be stationary for. I'm just trying to get across.
It's going to be a full fuel, nearly a full
you
fuel
reckon
stop.
40 seconds stationary time?
Well, I'd say we're looking 20-25. Well, if he's going to take 40 seconds static, he's taking tyres, right? So if it's not 40 seconds static, we're looking 20 to 25 seconds, and I'd more towards the 20 end of the deal.
You know what this means, though? He's not going to have to fuel save.
No, he's not.
So this really, really exposes... So at the moment, Purnell and Grant both definitely fuel saving. Lap times dropped right off. Murray Westberg won't have that problem. He will charge, and he's got 45 minutes to get back in the front. So I think at the moment, it's on for him at the front of the field. The race will be his to grab if he can get there. So we've got Dave Johnson in between. Michael Spithill, he's fueled to the end as well. So
41.25, so it was a full fuel stop. Sorry, my mistake. I miscalculated.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so either way, he's going to be charging now. He's got the license to take the race. He's certainly got the pace in the car, so he won't have to fuel save. He'll get out there and get cracking. And
given, so there's a couple things to dissect out of SMW's final stop. Number one, I think we're gonna see, so pit lane delta time 38 seconds. I think Purnell and Grant both need 10-15 seconds worth of fuel to get to the end of the race.
Well, you reckon
probably sub 10 seconds. So that's what 48 seconds that they need to be in the lead over SMW, or he's just going to charge on past them.
Yeah, I think that at the moment it's Murray Westberg's to take out. So one of the things we haven't touched on, which we'll just quickly touch on here now, is we've got team standings for this one as well. So at the moment the team standings are pretty close. So the result here is definitely going to impact on that, particularly with Purnell and Grant in the Audis, and Murray Westberg doing well along with Michael Spithill. So that's going to help, as is the Nash Bowler team combo and their result. So we'll bring that up towards the end of the race, or at the end of the race, and have a quick chat about that as well.
Something else, you mentioned the Zinger Burger combo call earlier in the race. Yeah, Mustick's just gone ahead and placed his order for dinner tonight.
Yeah, and disappointingly for Mustick, his teammate is out as well. Jaden Sweeney's steering wheel failing during the warm-up session prior to the race.
No.
He did try to get it fixed, but unfortunately the sensor in the steering wheel that receives the input failed, and he didn't make it to the start line. So good news for him, new wheel on its way for him. Bad news is he's not here tonight to help with the team championship.
No. Oh, that's. I mean, it's better than it going during the race because then there's the risk of you impacting somebody else's race. But no way. Oh.
Yeah, I heard that he was struggling with it during the week in some of the practice sessions, and he does compete in some drifting as well. So perhaps that finished off the wheel. It's I think it was a G25 or it might have been a G27. So it's an older series wheel. And
Time to upgrade.
Just time for upgrade. That's it.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, oh no, the G25 died. Guess I gotta buy a Simrig set of wheels and pedals.
That's exactly right. Get on board. Maybe a new computer from AFTERSHOCK as well. We haven't said a lot about our series sponsors tonight, so it's a good segue into that. You can see simrigs.com on the windscreen banner there of Mark Samuel's car. And we've also got Virtual Motorsport Mentor flashing on the screen there. So if you are looking to get into sim racing, we basically have all of the people you need to speak to. Simrigs.com for your rig, for the steering wheel, the pedals, everything that you need to drive the car. AFTERSHOCK, Ryan and the crew at St Kilda in Melbourne, they do fantastic PCs. Anywhere from entry level right up to the top. As Brock Schaefer's come into pit lane, I've just noticed as well. That's very interesting. Why would he be in pit lane?
He's cycling through to get his stop done. He's reached minimum threshold to get his final fuel load in, and he's cycling through just to pop out. So this will be an information stop.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
he wants to pop out and suss out where Fabian is on the track, and where the rest of them are going to pop out. If it's a nice, clean, buffer-free zone, then you'll see Nash cycle in as well. But Nash was about that 20-second margin, which would put him out on the track right around Timothy Fabian. So that means that Nash will go a lot longer into this stint until the gap's a lot safer.
Yeah, as you say, 46 seconds. Up the straight needing to be about 49 seconds. So he has got that gap on Fabian at the moment, but it just depends on what part of the track he's in as to the relative for that. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But yeah, just talking about Ryan and the boys at AFTERSHOCK, your rig, your choice, AFTERSHOCK PCs, they can custom build something for you if you want to go wild. They do also have pre-formatted packages for desktops, for gaming laptops, for just about anything that you need. And obviously, as they help us get this show on the road, we would love it if you could give them your support if you're looking for a new PC. And Virtual Motorsport Mentor, Chris and the crew, helping to get you go faster as well if that is what you need help with. So everything that you need to get going in sim racing.
I'll tell you what, Chris Purnell leading the GT3 field, that is a very representative figure of the coaching staff at Virtual Motorsport Mentor. So if you want to get yourself a coach that's won the GTE field in the unloved Ford GT last season. Yeah, look, he said he hated the car and he never wanted to see it again, were his words. So, look, maybe you're a fan of the Ford GT. Chris can certainly help you out with setups after running that thing, and part of the deal that they do put together is car setups. So I might have to see if I can get some practice in the Ford GT and a hand from Chris, I think.
Absolutely. If you want to go fast, it's the place to go, and all athletes have coaches, so definitely in this case not unique if you need to get some help just to make yourself a bit more consistent or quicker. Just keeping an eye on Murray Westberg here. He is around 2 minutes 15 down the road at this point in time from Purnell. He, I believe, has had an issue, whether it's getting through traffic. Chris Purnell just getting an off track and potentially a slowdown penalty to serve. He's actually just bent the rear wing of that car, so he will not be happy with that. I haven't seen when that happened, but that wing looking a little bit second-hand on the driver's side of the car, so passenger side of the car, because it's a left-hand drive. He's into pit lane.
I did get an off-track notification from him. So this stop right here is a twofold stop. Right, I've got a little bit of damage. Let's get it fixed off straight away.
Oh yeah, there it is there. Oh wow, he's had a big accident. That only indicated as an off track rather than an accident. So yeah, that's why he's come into pit lane. Certainly he will use his fast repair, get that done, and that changes the race for Murray Westberg as well, because it means that he can now run hard until the end of the race, albeit that he'll drop back down through the field doing this this quick pit stop with fuel. So it's going to change up the back end of this race, that's for sure.
The complexion of it changes dramatically. Murray Westberg, you said it, was 2 minutes and 14. That's a very big gap. That's...
Yeah. There was an off track, not an off track, but there was a question mark a little bit further back. So that's him getting through pit lane. And that's him exiting pit lane. So there's no notification of any off track or anything for him there. So not really sure why the gap is so big. We'll just jump back live here with him as he's making his way back round. Purnell has come out in second place behind Reece Grant. So still a fair old gap up the road between Purnell and Murray Westberg at this point in time. So keep an eye on it. He's catching up rapidly.
Oh, I see it. SMW had a he's double pitted. SMW's actually gone through the lane twice.
So potentially a drive-through penalty there.
No. There's a crash notification. So since he served a pit stop before, which we said would get him home through to the end, and just between those two pit stops, there's actually a notification he's crashed. So.
Okay. So we'll just jump back quickly and have a look at that then instead. Well, I want to see what happened so that we know where we're at. What's he done? Is he's just touched the grass or just... Oh, wow, that's a weird one as well. Particularly to go back tail end into the corner, he must have just grabbed the grass on the outside of the track as we're looking at it on the way through there. And, yeah, big damage to that car, so that is it.
Well, that changes his charge to the front.
It certainly does.
Malcolm's just come in to serve his final stop as well. I actually was just sort of keeping an eye on him in the background, watching SMW on that last lap, and he actually outbraked himself a little bit into the final chicane on the Mulsanne straight before they head down towards Mulsanne corner. It's a little bit. When you actually have a look at the track map around here, you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, that's going in this direction. But north is actually right at the start of the Mulsanne Straight. So as you turn onto that, that's actually the northern end of the track. So. Oh, right.
Just had part of the Polito Brothers fan club jump on as well. Patricia, thanks for joining us again this fortnight. We've got Phil on screen at the moment. He's actually done a cracking job. Because if we remember correctly, he had an incident on lap 1 and went right to the back of the field, as well as all the way back up into 12th position. So driving really consistently apart from that early issue that he had at the start of the race. So doing a good job to get himself back up into the pack. And Ron is currently up in 8th as well. We haven't mentioned him too much other than in the battle pack that he was involved in a little earlier on in the race. And that's because he's just been doing what Ron does, which is getting the job done and being nice and consistent on track. So he's currently up 4 positions and in 8th spot. Fastest or hardest charger at the moment, Timothy Russell. He is in 7th position, up 10 spots, doing a good job too. He had been battling for quite a period of time as well and where's he gone?
Mark Samuel has... I was just looking because I thought he's done his stop.
He had an accident on lap 20, so last time around he had an off track, which has seen that battle, that seesaw battle that they were having end temporarily.
Say what, the Le Mans circuit doesn't fail to challenge the drivers. It's I think we've seen a lot of normally in tennis you'd call them an unforced error, whereby somebody else around you is not really forcing you to make an error just purely by applying pressure to you as a driver. The drivers have just been making mistakes this evening. The guys that have been least affected by that.
Speaking of which, this is Timothy Febben we're on board with.
happened? Oh!
Down onto the inside of the track, and I'm not sure who that was coming through. It might have been Race Grant or Chris Purnell coming through on the inside there, and they've managed to avoid the accident. So Febin there back into pit lane. He got that one towed. He'll get that repaired. But what that does is move Brock Schaefer up into third position on track, and Schaefer is fueled to the end. So
I'd say you'd see Nash and Bowler make their way through the pit lane very quickly and finish off their services and get themselves back out.
Martin Lofthouse has also served his final stop as we've got 32 minutes to go in this one. So that was actually Race Grant that managed to avoid that accident that happened right in front of him, the leader of our GT3 class. So a good bit of reflexology from him. I'm not even sure if that's a real word. I just have seen it around, so we'll just run with it for the night.
Strategery.
And he's done a good job. Maybe he's been doing what's that thing called where they punch the buttons as they light up? That training.
Oh yeah. There's a MotoGP reaction app actually on the phones that they can do. Yeah. So there was a video put out last season sometime of MotoGP stars versus F1 stars, and yeah, there's actually a whole bunch of reaction-based skill games that you can do. But the ball drop one I think is my favourite that I saw Pierre Gasly doing on the grid. It's Silverstone.
And
actually,
speaking of him, we haven't brought it up yet tonight in our general motorsport discussion. Thank goodness there was some variety in the Formula One last weekend, and you know, you briefly touched at the end of some of our coverage about who had won that one, and that bet that someone placed for 20 cents. I found out 20 cents to win €35,000. But yeah, some good variety there. Nicholas has just asked, first, second, fourth and fifth still to pit? Yes, absolutely. So we've still got Nash and Bowler, as well as the Musk Stick and Timothy Russell to pit. Martin Lofthouse has already done his second pit stop, so he will jump up the order a little bit when they get through their pit stops. Polito to do his stop, and Jeff Thomas has done 2 stops as well, so he's fueled to the end. He pitted last lap. So we've had, in terms of the GT3 category, Chris Purnell has done a stop, so he's fueled to the end. Sebastian Murray Westberg is fueled to the end as well. So yeah, a little bit of fuel saving to be done by the others, but we don't think anyone
crashed.
Can make it.
Luke Trahare's crashed. Was the most recent notification that come through as well from the GT3 class. So. Oh no. Oh, okay.
Oh, careful. Wow, that was close as well. So just a big slide there. And fortunately no damage as a consequence of it. I think that was Martin Lofthouse that was getting sorry, that was Jeff Thomas getting around near him as well. So fortunately no damage done.
Oh, I tell you what, whenever you see a notification come up and there's a GTE car involved with a GT3, your heart gets stuck in your mouth about whether or not it's an overtaking issue. I hate those because it's just sometimes the drivers just want to give too much and you're not quite sure, and then you both jinx each other out. Those are the worst ones to watch because they're just so awkward. But nope, that's a small driver error. Handled and on the way for Trahere. How deep do you reckon Grant's going to go here?
Well, that's actually why I was just jumped on board with him. He put it on lap 13 to lap 22. We're on lap 23 now. Have we done any numbers on the Audi to see where they got to? So they pitted lap 13. Assuming they ran that dry 26 laps, we're definitely going to get to. So he's going to have to splash and dash.
And his times have come down again too, so I don't think he's fuel saving.
No, I think with the extra pit that Murray Westberg had to make, and now Purnell right behind him, he's got a minute back to Michael Spithill, who equally is, well actually he's fueled to the end, so he's going to have to do it soon. Probably I'd say the next 4 laps.
We're close, yeah. And that's not going to get him anywhere near close enough. He's going to be just about 15 minutes or so shy.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's definitely not going to make it to the end. It's just a matter of how deep he goes to give himself time to get back.
Reese Grant gets some airtime, decides to use that airtime to show us what he thinks of Witch's hats.
As they should. I'm equally a bit surprised here. We've got a bent wing on the back of Frank Hodak's car. I thought that would have repaired itself in pit lane, so maybe a little bit of new damage to that car as he gets around in 10th place. He's up 6 spots as well, so another one that just gets around consistently. More damage on the right-hand front corner of that car actually, so but just gets around consistently, and as a result moved well inside the top 10 here as well for the overall results for the race.
Tell you what, we're just talking about Witch's hats, and then you flip to the car. It's nearly like a little bit of a rolling Witch's hat sometimes when you catch it on the right angle. I love that. I love that livery so much.
And here we go. So this is Braden Nash into pit lane. He's got a margin of 47 odd seconds over Matty Bowler, who I expect will come in as well. And what should happen here is Brock Schaefer will assume the lead of this race, just depending on how much fuel is going to go into the Nash Porsche. I'm going to assume...
I don't think that Schaefer will get this one. I reckon that Nash will be able to pop back out in front.
Well,
because
where's Schaefer on the track? He's just coming through the back section of the track now. So he's... Where is he now? He's coming up to the GT chicane after this. So no, I think Nash will get out in front. Matty Bowler has come in as we expected. So Nash now out in front. Fuel to the end of the race here. So, and he's got friendly fire behind him with Matty Bowler in pit lane, but he will be emerging, and then we'll have Brock Schaefer right behind him as well. So just keep an eye on this Schaefer Bowler gap. That's going to be crossed over, so Bowler will assume 3rd position at the end of the pit stop, with our top 3 cars now having made their final stops. Vincent Muscat in the VMMA car, the VMA Porsche, my apologies, is still going to need to make his stop. Excuse me, as is Timothy Russell. So Martin Lofthouse, I think, effectively our current 4th place vehicle on the track.
I was going to say that gap to Bowler wasn't quite enough for him to re-emerge out there in front of Muscat, but it's going to be an on-track battle. Muscat, what lap are we on? We are on lap 24, so Muscat's still got another 4 laps. So whether or not he wants to make it a little bit interesting for himself and actually put on a little bit of fight with Matty Bowler, he's got the option.
Tim Russell into pit lane now as well to get his final service done. So that will leave Muscat and the Polito brothers and Mark Samuel, Frank Hodak as the only remaining cars not to have served their 2nd stop in the GTE field. We know Purnell is fueled to the end. Reese Grant still the leader of the GT3 class, having not taken his final stop.
Spitty's in the pits. Spitty's just come in for his final stop as well.
Interesting, so he's getting that done. That moves Sebastian Murray Westberg up into 3rd, and the gap there is going to be around about 50 odd seconds.
Maybe it's going to be on, I think, on track between Spitty and SMW. There's a chance he's out of the lane. Spitty is, so this is going to be probably the closest lap, closest battle on track is going to be right here. So,
and being teammates, don't be too surprised if they work together to try and make up the distance. So just see what happens here, whether or not they can work together. I think that gap's actually unfortunately slightly larger than the timing monitor suggesting, but it's coming right down now. Probably going to end up at around about 12 or so seconds between those 2 cars. So
I'd say, well, with Grant still to serve his final stop, he's 1 minute and 17 seconds ahead of Chris Purnell. So that one's, he's gonna, well, oh no, sorry, Purnell's 29 seconds to Reese Grant, sorry, my apologies. And then it's 1 minute and 17 seconds back to Spitty. So it's gonna be the VMM Audis 1 and 2 and GT3 locked up, barring any mistakes. the NSR Porsches. Oh yeah, because Muscat's out of sync. Yep, so it'll be NSR Porsche. So it looks like it's going to be the teammates lockout once again.
Yeah, I think you're going to be right there. We're going to have a 1-2-3 NSR domination of the GTE category, and it looks like for the first time in a few weeks, a VMMA lockout of the GT3 category. But as we say, we're in the last 30 minutes. In fact, 23 minutes to go. We just ticked into the 22nd minute to go, and looking at crazy time. So anything can happen from here, and invariably it does every time we get into the race. The driver's tired. They've done an hour and 45 of driving. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. They're approaching an hour 45 of driving, a little bit off that, but they are getting tired, and this is when mistakes often happen.
Right, so
a little bit of gamesmanship there from Grant, just looking like he was going to swerve into pit lane and then pulling back out of it again.
well, there's not really much point of gamesmanship going on. You kind of want to utilize pit lane entry. It just sort of offers you a little bit of an extra angle coming through the first of the forward chicanes, just to maintain your speed. And it's pretty common. It really bothers me, the pit lane entry to this track, not alone because of the chicane or the kink in it, but also where it's positioned and how it's used. I'd really like to see it backed up the track a little bit more and moved out of the way. It's one of those unique features of Le Mans. You've got to adjust how you drive right around the pit lane entry. So
yeah, absolutely. We've just had Pat Gallo, who isn't running tonight, drop into the chat, and just congratulate Mark Samuel on a job well done so far this evening, and you're spot on. He's up 6 places, obviously new to the series, but capable as well. As I've just seen on the timing screen there, Matty Bowler has got in front of Vincent Muscat as well, so that battle's sorting itself out on track with Muscat still to pit.
That'll be somewhere in the middle of a straight.
Yeah, I'm just surprised if they exchange positions yet again, depending on where that's happened on track.
Oh, that was the interesting thing, wasn't it? When Bowler went past, that's a lot of smoke. Who was that?
So,
was that Ron Polito?
No, it was Tomo, I believe.
Yeah, good spot. Malcolm had an off track there just before as well, so mistakes and errors starting to creep in for a lot of our drivers. Like, overall, the driving's been pretty clean and pretty consistent. Well, you mentioned Reese Grant playing around with a little bit of gamesmanship. There he is, right in the middle of the 2 trains. But the thing that really struck me about the NSR Porsches was when they were fighting with their non-teammate compatriots also running a Porsche, was that they still leapt away in a straight line even when they were punching the hole in the air, and that's very indicative of the style of lower downforce setup that they brought tonight. So I couldn't believe that. That utterly blew me away. That was probably my favourite shot of the night, of the pace differential between all of our cars.
Yeah, they've certainly dominated here tonight. They've come with the best setup and have been the fastest cars all night by some stretch. So see what they do, and we're heading to Bathurst in a fortnight after this. So that is obviously one of our favourite tracks to go to, other than I think the Nürburgring at the end of the season is going to be another challenging race, with that being one that will finish in the dark. But obviously Bathurst being what it is, it's going to be cool to see the changes in downforce and how that impacts on the cars as they go across the top of the mountain, and obviously what speed we're going to see down Conrad Straight. So that's where we're headed to in a fortnight with this series.
Muskie, he's thinking about this. Oh, sorry, it's Reese Ashmore, not Reese Grant. That explains why there's still an Audi in the way. Oh, that's a little bit better. Yeah, actually, it's got me curious because I think the changes to the Mercedes are going to be probably the most, and the BMW are going to be the biggest ones that are going to be impacting. It wouldn't surprise me to see a few more of our BMW M8 drivers doing a little bit better at Bathurst with a slicker profile. They've got a real advantage over the top of the mountain with. Look, it's not easy to pass, right? It's near impossible to pass up the top of the mountain, but you're never gonna overtake a BMW M8 over across the top of the mountain. The Porsches, yeah, you might be able to slide two Porsches side by side across there if you're brave, if you're very brave, and the other guy who you're alongside decides better of it. But oh, it's gonna be interesting. You've piqued my interest now. One thing I can tell you actually about Jordan Malcolm, not a Bathurst fan. So seeing him trying to do Bathurst for 2 hours on his own, yeah, he's not gonna be a happy chappy.
That's almost un-Australian.
He's just, it's kind of like he prefers the Nürburgring. I don't know why, but he does.
No, the Nürburgring's a very rewarding track as well. So we jump back on board here with Samuel and Polito. This gap closing right down. Neither of these drivers having gone through pit lane either. So don't know whether or not there's been a driver penalty on the last lap. I'm not sure why this gap's closed up so much. I'm just getting notification here that Michael Spithill has come off the track. I'll just jump on board and have a look at this replay. Here we're getting a lot of mistakes with drivers. Just, yeah, over at entry there again. Same place on the track where we've seen a couple of other drivers as well come off. So obviously still just adjusting to the changes in these vehicles, potentially with balance and things like that. Wow, almost taking out Murray Westberg then. He would have been livid to have been taken out twice in one night by his teammates. So probably a good thing there that didn't happen. So now Murray Westberg officially up into third place. Reece Grant with a 2-minute gap to him now, so he can transit pit lane and maintain his position. He'll come out in second place with Purnell only a minute 30 up the road, or 29 seconds in front, behind, I should say, our GT3 class leader, Reece Grant.
Wow. Oh man, twice in a night. Could you imagine the chips that would have been spat in that team chat?
It would not have been fun on the back.
Brad Clank would not have had a great time trying to sort that out, I'm sure.
Just in the back of Reece Grant's car here, trying to listen to see if he is indeed fuel saving or not. And no, he's not. So he is going to have to pit, I would suggest, this lap or next lap to make his way to the end of the race without running out of fuel. See off in the distance there, Chris Purnell. Thanks very much for the follow there, Brendan. Appreciate it. And yeah, he's going to have to get that done. Actually, my apologies. That is Reece Ashmore just off in the back of the picture there.
Righto, well, not much left in this race now. We're down into the last 15 minutes.
How did this happen?
Is this a plan?
This is legitimately for position. There's it looks like qualifying, because this is exactly what they were doing in qualifying, running together and dropping lap times like bombs. No, actually, you know,
Nash dropped 11 seconds on that last lap.
He's had an off.
Surely. Give me a sec. I'm gonna go review that whole lap. There's nothing on the timing.
He's been through pit lane, but I can't see any offs anywhere. So have a look back and see. Maybe it is deliberate. Maybe he's tried to slow it up a little bit to bring home the formation finish 1-2 at the end of the race. We've got 14 minutes to go. They're going to effectively be trading positions for a fair bit of the next 14 minutes unless they deliberately stay behind one another. So a little bit of team strategy here. Reece Grant has gone through pit lane as well, just while we've jumped on the battle here. He is doing that stop now
and that's Joshua Maynard. You can actually see in the shot just at the bottom of the screen as well. So
doing his service. Brock Schaefer's taken the lead of the race while we've been looking at this, but I reckon that's just...
what has happened?
It's just the consequence of the pits of the straight and them changing positions. You can see them there running next to one another down the back straight.
Having fun.
And yeah, I think that might be it. I think at the moment they're just jogging on the treadmill, and when you're that far out in front, they're able to do that.
After you, sir. No, after you, sir. No, sir, please. I insist. Please, after you. Oh, boy.
So, just got to be careful here that they don't end up accidentally doing anything that could be to the detriment of the result of the race. So just a good time
Don't
to get
chat
the
to
job.
Gibson and TK about that.
Yeah, just a good time to get the job done and bring both of those cars home at this stage, certainly in first and second. I'm not going to put it past them either. I mean, Matty Bowler's only 14 seconds back down the track. So
Close. That's come down a long way.
it has. So you just got to wonder whether or not they might just be setting it up for a reasonably nice looking photo at the end of this race. They've got plenty of time. Having said that, Muscat is only 17 seconds, but he still needs to pit. So really, they've got about a minute up their sleeve if they really want to make something happen here. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. But the gap there...
Well, I was looking at their sector times. Their sector times, the first sector was 2 seconds slower. Second sector, 3 seconds slower from Nash and Schaefer. They're going to try and do a full lap side by side by the look of things.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap to Bowler is plummeting. It's down now to 9 seconds, 8 seconds. It's yeah, literally plummeting as they go around. So that's exactly what they're looking to do here, is to put on a display of power. I would suggest you'd call it. You can see Bowler just in the back of the picture there, and bring this
We're going to have
home.
to let Phil Polito pass in a second.
Well, they are, yeah, absolutely, and he'll have to he'll be able to unlap himself, so he won't be too disappointed with that if that's the consequence of it. As I said,
Well,
they know that Muscat's going to have to
fuel he's
pit.
Phil Polito might ride with these guys if he's underfueled the car slightly.
Maybe just
'Cause he doesn't want to
spoil
do
the
another
photo,
lap.
you reckon?
Well, not even that. Like, if he's guaranteed that in his mind for his fuel strategy that he's going to get 1 lap less in than the leaders, and all of a sudden they've dropped their pace off this far, he's screwed, completely and utterly screwed. To be frank with you, yeah. So Polito's dropped back again.
So we've got as well the opportunity for the same situation to happen in the GT3s as well, with Purnell and Grant just about 15 seconds away from one another. So as Phil Polito there goes into pit lane, so that eliminates that problem, and I can't but help.
Of his pit lane drive through yet, so that was his actual last stop. That's on schedule for Phil.
And
that's not unscheduled.
And
so
Muscat's come in as well, so I can't help but think that they're going to get exactly what they want here. They've got a minute up their sleeve. They can slow it right down and get into a nice little group with 10 minutes to go, and run it through to the end to bring home a very dominant NSR 123. Let's not forget as well that Bowler went off on just before the start of the race and effectively has come from the back of the field in the GT E-Class to get back up into third. So he has driven a fantastic race to get himself back up into that position, and he thoroughly deserves third spot on the podium.
look, you said it at the top of the broadcast, and it needs to be repeated. They are very pretty Porsches. They're set up well. They look good. You know, everything's in place. So, for these guys to put in the work today, with the changes to the cars throughout the patch, and have that rewarded in such a wonderful manner, Muscat. Actually, this battle's not over either, because Muscat is only a couple of seconds up the road from Lofthouse here. So.
Yeah, so Nicholas just dropped into the chat and asked if that made Lofty fourth. It doesn't yet, but he is charging up on the back of Jason Muscat in the VMMA Porsche. So we'll keep an eye on this battle now that the front of the field has turned into a little bit of a procession. We'll keep an eye on what goes on up there. But at this stage, we're looking for Lofthouse to charge down Muscat at the end of this race. With Lofthouse having dropped in at lap 22 for fuel, so he's obviously cleared it again, so his car will be a little lighter than Muscat's at this point in time. Oh no, that's not, they'll be about the same, so it's just going to come down to who putting the better laps on the worn tyres at this stage.
Well, even just who's not even better laps, who's more stable? Because if Muscat's been pushing this whole time, well then, and Lofthouse hasn't, well, you know, the tyre condition at this phase of the race is just going to be so completely and utterly differential. I mean, you look at it, what are we, 10 minutes or so to go?
Yep.
And you go 6 seconds, oh man, that's close, you'd have to do a lot of work, but around here, and with the errors we've been seeing, this isn't going to be over until we get through the last chicane.
And no, Nicholas, no one in the field has taken tyres this race. We've got 2 laps to go, I think, by the estimate from Nash and Schaefer. They're just about 3/4 of the way through a lap, so I think we're going to get 2 more laps after this one for this race.
Yep, it's pretty much all there is to really talk about. It has been a dominant performance by NSR. It's been another dominant performance for those guys. It's been another dominant performance for VMMA and the GT3 class as well. The question and the gauntlet I think needs to be thrown down. Twitch chat, do you know anyone who wants to come up here and knock these guys off in a 2-hour format race? Well, let us know. If you want to get involved in the series, Stuart, how do our drivers register for the next race? Because we've got a few first-timers in here tonight.
Yeah, so basically they can jump onto FGMECast.com and just apply to drive whichever series it is that you're looking to jump on, because we do have a few running. Just drop an entry in there and you can jump into the race in a fortnight's time at Bathurst. Obviously, competitive field you can see from the drivers that are here tonight. Yeah, definitely still got some room for extras if you do want to come in, albeit we do have a couple of absences tonight. So we, as always, want to keep these grids as full as possible. It's broadcast here because otherwise you wouldn't be finding out about it. So yeah, jump in and see what you'd like to do and get involved. We definitely want to see more people out here on this one. The other thing we need to quickly check on, which I want to bring up very quickly, is this one here. Thanks very much for the like there, Robert. This is the team championship, and at the moment you can see 981 Motorsport Carbon, which is actually the VMMA cars we've been referencing, on top, but Braden Nash and Matthew Bowler in second place in NSR Car 1. Now there's a certain amount of sense here with the NSR Car 2 further down the list in 11th, for them to be a little bit smart about strategy here and get Matty Bowler up into second place.
So for those of you who have tuned in for the first time this evening, the drivers obviously get to pick their teammates and run around with those guys. Braden Nash has been pretty much the dominant factor in a GTE class, and Brocky Schaefer has been right there along with him. I actually wasn't aware that they weren't on the same team, and that it was Bowler with Nash and Schaefer with, sorry, who was the other driver with Schaefer? I didn't even catch that one.
I think he is with, give me 2 seconds to come back to you.
Caught you off guard as well.
He's actually driving with TK, believe it or not, so that neither of those guys having a second car in their team to be able to team up together. So he's actually running around with TK, who's out of the race tonight.
So that's not going to help their championship prospects. So whether or not... Whoa, okay. Alright guys, settle down. You're actually scaring me a little bit now.
It's getting a bit interesting as they're trying to make entertainment for themselves on the back part of this race. I wonder, they'll obviously be sitting there thinking, well, I wonder who is going to be watching us at the moment, or if there's anyone going to be watching us at the moment. So
Nah, they're doing it for their own amusement. I don't think that they're wondering whether or not they're being looked at. I think they're just out there having a little bit of fun. Oh my word, they're at it again.
As they do it, yeah, as you say, as they do it again. So,
Tell you what, you know the best perspective of the three of these guys to have a look from would be Matty Bowler. Just jumping on the cockpit of that car at this stage in the race and seeing this going on ahead of you would be a sight to behold.
well, we've done just that. We jumped on the nose of Matty's car, and Ella, your man, is in 3rd position at the moment in this NSR train, dominating the front of the Australian Endurance E Championship Round 3 from LeMan. So, just trying to appreciate a bit of it here to get up onto formation. Just holding the line.
You got one lap, guys.
What are they deciding to do here? We need to jump outside so we can actually see this. Just going 3 wide. Trying to get some formation style photos, I think, for this. As I said, it makes sense. If it were me, I'd be saying, Brocky, sorry mate, you got to move over. We're looking after the team championship here, and I don't have any problem with that as a spectator at all, because basically they have smashed it. So, you know, team orders, that sort of thing. They might not get that done, but
I tell you what, I think that was a race start. I reckon they're racing each other in this last lap.
yeah, maybe. Well, Bowler's moved up into 2nd spot now, so they're onto it.
Mine are stern, the 3 NSR Porsches, until Bowler decides I've had enough of that. A little bit more weaving. Let's put a lot more load through these tires, shall we? Man, these things are going to be absolutely stressed to the max in about half a lap's time. He does not let these tyres have a lap off right here at the end. No way. Work them right to the last.
Well, the great news from our perspective is these guys will put on a big show at the end as well. So there's going to be plenty of fireworks at the end of the race. And it makes it pretty simple for us in terms of asking the question about thanking sponsors, because they've only got one to thank between the 3 of them. So, or maybe 2, but Phoenix Window Tinting being the main sponsor there of NSR. So they're certainly getting their coverage tonight with these guys just dominating. So I can't wait to see what they get to at Bathurst in terms of lap times and how they're going to get around there in these ones. We might have to try and find some people to create some pace for it. So a couple of the run up the front just struggling with consistency tonight, and that has resulted in not taking anything away from their driving actually, but it definitely resulted in an absolute domination. There's another cone, cops are pounding by NSR, so hat goes off to them.
How much is in the Witch's Hat budget for this season?
We're out. There's no more Witch's Hats this season, as far as I can tell. We kill them just about every lap around. So, and I feel for the guy that has to run back out onto the track and put them out there. So.
Those guys do it. The marshals running the Witch's Hats back out and put them back out of position. These guys do not give them a break for 2 hours. No, get that one back out there. How long was the practice session before this?
It was 30 minutes. As
so there you go.
That's Luke Trahera off in the background there. No, Nicholas, they are actually sponsors. So NSR sponsored here by Phoenix Window Tinting. So the liveries on all the cars are designed by the drivers, or they have someone make them for them, or potential sponsors make it for them as well. So the Phoenix Window Tinting have been on board for a couple of seasons now. I don't know how far back that relationship goes, and I don't know the relationship of the business to the team, but they've certainly supported Brock, as far as I'm aware, for as long as I've seen him in racing. And he's been on board with Braden and Matty as well. So
on the lane.
Yeah, we've
Is that Maynard? It's Joshua Maynard's in the lane. Yeah, oh, he's done.
He had an off track, so I think unfortunately it's over. As we get towards the end of this one, it's going to be an absolute formation finish for our victors tonight. It's NSR Motorsport, Braden Nash Matty Bowler and Brock Schaefer taking home a 1-2-3 domination here. And the guys have done a cracking job to dominate the race. I don't know what else we can say about it. The picture there says it all, with the 3 cars crossing the finish line in mint condition. Watch for the burnouts here. They will be wild. More likely the drivers behind them have to watch out for the burnouts. There's not going to be anywhere to go.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. Like, surely get through the first chicane, guys, and then throw it off on the exit of the track there. But no, Muskets just crossed the line there in the background. That was Frank Hodak as well. Time to cross back to the GT3 field, and Reese Grant is only 4 seconds behind the bent-winged Purnell Audi.
Interesting that he's got a bent wing again, because that means he may not have used the fast repair in pit lane on that car when he ducked into pit lane, because the front of that car is bent. So we'll have to ask him about that later on, whether or not he had another off track. I didn't get any notification, but either way, he's going to bring home the win, Chris Purnell, in that Audi. It was the one that we questioned the most in terms of the weight penalties. And my goodness, what a lot of smoke there is up ahead. I can't even see Chris coming through at the end there. But I can tell you, somewhere in the background there, Chris Purnell has managed to get through and finish this race, with Reese Grant taking out 2nd place. And at this stage, I can't see Sebastian Murray-Westberg missing out on 3rd. So we've got a heap of smoke coming here from these guys as they celebrate. Going to just try and jump to the chopper view here and just have a look at just how much smoke there is. Now there's a couple of Porsches smashed into one another. They certainly look way more second-hand than they did when they finished the race, but definitely deserve the celebration after such a great finish there for those 3 guys.
And they've got enough practice at this point in time too, don't they? With the burnouts, that's surely that forms a part of NSR Porsche preparations.
Yeah, you'd think so. Definitely they would practice that just to make sure they've got enough fuel at the end, enough tyre left just to be able to get it done and crack out at the end there and finish the race on a high. So what an unbelievable display. We've got 2 of the drivers. We'll just wait for the 3rd one. There we go. So we'll just... we've just decided, guys, as we're joined by our full NSR podium, to just rename this event the LeMan NSR 2-hour, brought to you by Phoenix Window Tinting. What a display. Congratulations, guys. A fantastic outcome.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome race.
Where do we start? I mean, we can start by thanking the sponsors, because that'll take the least amount of time.
Oh, yeah. I'll start. I'll just thank the boys, like, yeah, Matty and Brock. You know, we built this team from nothing, and you know, to bring a 1-2-3 at Le Mans, that's pretty cool.
It's we need to start probably with just quickly touching on the changes that came through to the car last night. How much did that upset your setup for the race for today?
It threw it out the window. We had no setup. I was stuck at work till 6:30. I set Brock onto it. He had 15 spare minutes, and he pulled out an absolute banger.
Yeah, well, we were marvelling as well. About 5 to 6 kilometres an hour difference down the straight against 10. The rest of the Porsches. So
8 to 10, yeah.
Running potentially a lot less wing, but not too much effect or too much detriment. Certainly, the positive, you guys had the other Porsches in the bag down the Mulsanne there.
Yeah, Brocky's a magician.
Yeah, I can't believe how good he is at setups.
Just a man of few words as well, Brock, not dropping in there. So congratulations in terms of managing to get on top of that. A couple of the other drivers did comment on how well you'd managed to get on top of the car with the changes. So obviously a great result and well done.
The changes are alright. Like it's not actually that different to how it was before. But anyway, yeah, the setup worked. It was good. We were all quick. Yeah.
The swerving at the end there was good to watch. We were just hoping that nothing foul was going to come from it as well. And the 1-2 for Nash and Bowler there, you guys, that'll certainly help your team championship as well.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to keep up with Braden. He's very quick.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
that was
saw.
the plan the whole time. Try and maximise our team points.
Yeah, and to good effect. All that is definitely going to help you guys in that one. So again, congratulations, 1, 2, 3. The first one we've seen in the GTE field, and it was a really, really strong performance from you guys. Looking forward to seeing what you bring to the table at Bathurst.
Cheers, Stu.
Thanks, mate.
You.
Probably a good segue to talking about our GT3 field this evening is team championship points, and the guy that are actually leading the team's championship, Chris Purnell and Reese Grant, looks like another little day at the office, albeit you've added 2.5 kilograms over the setup from last time out.
Yeah, the car was pretty good, to be honest with you. The weight didn't really make any effect. If anything, it probably helped the balance of the car a little bit. It just wasn't so oversteery. So yeah, race was all good. Couple of brain fades in the last sort of 45 minutes. Issue with the lap car at one, and then I just absolutely cooked it at Mulsanne Hairpin on the second one. And one more lap, and I reckon Reese probably would have got me. But yeah, it was good racing otherwise.
Reese, does it ever cross the mind you might get the chance to overtake the team boss and put one up on him? That's a trophy that'd go up on the shelf for sure.
That's all I was thinking about those last few laps, mate. It was just taking him. Hopefully, you just crash it again. I'm thinking, come on, one more time. But nah, it was good. It was a good race.
Chris, care to respond?
Nah, don't have to say anything. It's all good.
Can we talk about fuel just quickly before we jump into Seb? How it looked like you were trying to save Chris at the start there before that incident to get through to the end on one stop. Was that in your thinking, or?
No, it was. I was always going to do a two-stop. It was just the fact that Seb was on a different fuel strategy at the time, so it looked like I was saving, but I was actually driving my hardest. It was just with old tyres, full tank, it took a little bit for the car to come back to me.
Fair enough as well.
Right, well, congratulations once again on a 1-2 finish for VMMA Audi. Seb, it was an interesting race, but at one stage there we nearly thought that you might have been pegged for a race win. Does your teammate have to drive into the side of you at the start of every race?
I would actually really, really hope not. I tell you what, there was a moment there where brand new teammate, welcome to the team, first race on the. Oh mate, you've hit me. What are you doing, buddy? No, look. I have to give a shout out to Peter and Smitty. Pete and myself have worked really hard this week, knowing that I felt like I had a really good chance tonight, and I feel tonight was a bit of a race of what could have been. Absolutely gutted at myself. I've managed to hold on with that damage at the start and not lose too much time. Worked out on the fly what lap we needed to pit to make sure we were still on the two-stop strategy. I was probably about 10-15 kilometers an hour down when not in the draft at the start after that contact, so I knew I had to get into the pit early to try and get that repaired. Once I got that repaired, I was just gung-ho. And I was doing similar lap times to Reese and Chris during that first stint with heavier fuel. So I knew that my time to really take a chance at them was once they had stopped for their first stop and were on heavier fuel with older tires. And I think, I'm not sure if Chris pipped me, but I'm pretty sure I got the fastest lap of the race by the end of it. So I was definitely pushing hard. And then, yeah, second stop, filled the tank up, was going fairly cautious, and went into Porsche curves expecting to have the same level of grip that I'd always had, and forgot I'd had another 120 litres of fuel on board, and the car snapped on me. So,
I was actually just having a quick look through the timings. Yes, you did secure by 0.5 of a second the fastest lap, 0.4 of a second the fastest lap of the race. Do you want to know 0.09 of a second? 0.11 of a second faster than your teammates. So one and two in terms of lap pace for you two.
Yeah. No, the car was absolutely on rails. It was fast. It was a little sketchy at times, and that's what caught me out. We definitely were trying to peg on a bit more downforce as the week was going on, just to settle it down through the Porsche, but we were really just losing a lot of time in the straights. So And I mean, by my rough calculations during the race, with that spin, that crash, I definitely lost over a minute in that. And then the lap when coming out of the pits, I lost 30 seconds on that lap. So I reckon the win was on the table. But big congratulations to Chris and Reese. Great effort, flawless drive. So got to try and get that win. I will get that maiden win.
Well, Bathurst is the next race on the calendar, and you're un-Australian if you don't know the twists, the turns, the ups, the downs, where the bits of Armco are that you need to avoid around that circuit. Chris, going to throw the gauntlet down. Do you think Wesberg can take it to you boys at Bathurst?
Yeah, definitely. The Merc's always been the strongest car there. I don't know, I've never driven the Audi around there, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting next fortnight to work out what we can do with it. But yeah, it'll be an interesting race. I'm not going to just give it to him, that's for sure. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens.
Well, SMW, you've got the best chance for a win of the season coming up in the next round. Do you think you can take it?
I feel like I've had my two best chances with Sebring and Le Mans, and Bathurst is probably not one of my stronger tracks. I do love it, so I'm hoping for a good race, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's been the Australian Endurance E Championships for this evening. We've had the brain fades, we've had the new drivers entering the series and being quick, and we've had the NSR Porsches pull off their first perfect. I had something for this earlier in the evening. It was the perfect Porsche paddock, basically, or something along those lines. And well, it's been an interesting evening to say the least, Stuart.
Yeah, no, they've certainly done a fantastic job and a thoroughly enjoyable 2.5 hours for us to bring across the evening. And definitely looking forward to getting to Bathurst in another fortnight's time. So just quickly to touch on what have we got coming up for the rest of the week. Not a lot. It's quietened off for us this week, which is fantastic. So there'll be some other things. We've got Free Time Friday returning tomorrow night from 10:30. So that is a late show for us, but we are doing Free Time Friday live from 10:30 tomorrow night. So if you are up late, then do drop by and say hello. We're going to be talking about a whole heap of different things in that show as it makes a return to the channel. And then we will do a fair bit of 2K21 stuff over the weekend. We've still got Madden that we have not touched because there's been so many games coming out over the last 2 weeks that we just haven't managed to get into that one. So that is definitely on the cards. We've got Sunday afternoon golf between 4 and 6 as well. So do tune in if you are looking for something to entertain yourselves. We will be around. Before we head back on Tuesday, as Jason Muscat just drops in with a Zinger Burger combo at the end of the feed there. So do join us. Otherwise, on Tuesday, we will be back with the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series live from around 7:30. And then back into our usual schedule for the remainder of the week. We do still have a lot of spots in our IndyCar series that we're running next Friday again as well. So definitely get yourselves into that. We want those grids full. We do have 2 classes in that one, not similar to this, where we run a shorter format Pro Mazda race early in the evening, followed by our full IndyCar race after that. So jump onto our website, fgmecast.com, and get yourselves involved if you're looking for some running to do on a Friday night. That's it from us. As usual, FGM ECast, your place for E-Pace. I'm Stuart, that was Scotty Rankin, and this has been another round of the Australian Endurance E-Championship. We appreciate your company for the evening. Enjoy the rest of your week.